Good evening, folks. Welcome to the Liberia Public Radio. I'm Francis right here this evening. So, welcome our viewers and listeners right here, 28 from the New England Bureau to the Liberia Public Radio. Get my folks here, and we will get this program going here. Just bear with it, been tight and crazy day here, but notwithstanding, we are committed in having this program going. So stay tuned and
everything's going bad.
Good evening, folks. Welcome to this program. This is LPR TV special. I'm Alfonso Zayensot of the Liberia Public Radio, and LPR TV here today is Saturday. We want to welcome our viewers and listeners across the globe. Thank you for joining us here. We're having a little bit of technical problem here, but notwithstanding, this part of our commitment, whatever it is. Getting the technical support from main studio here to make sure that we restore this broadcast. So we will get this program going very shortly here as usual. To part of our community commitment, we have introduced an important segment right here on this network, Health Talk with Professor Joel will be helping us out here this evening to discuss some other issue. As you may note, there are a lot of issues ongoing in Liberia across the world, globally, as you know, of the coronavirus. That's not what we want to be talking on here. Perhaps if there's something in your playbook you're going to be bringing here, but that's not going to be the focus here this evening. We'll be talking about some other diseases that have also devastated the society. But to give you a heads up, as far as we are concerned, 3 cases has been identified right now in Liberia. If all goes well tomorrow, I will be hosting, if and only if, because sometimes those people they change their plan. But if all goes well tomorrow, I'll be hosting the Chief Medical Officer of the Republic of Liberia. Dr. Keto will be right here with me tomorrow according to our time. I agree at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, which will be 5 o'clock Liberia time. Hopefully, it will be talking to Dr. Flomo, also is the medical officer in Sano County. We try to get a sense of what is unfolding outside of Monrovia, other parts of the world, of the country that is in Liberia. So hopefully, like I said, if the appointment stays, we are on course with it. We're going to double check that. But if it goes well, we will be hosting Dr. Flomo, Dr. Keto, who is the Chief Medical Officer of the Republic of Liberia. Let me see whether my listener is yet. Okay, see, I'm getting the signal. Professor, are you there? Good evening. Are you there? Hello? J- Okay, let me see here. Joel, let me just get a message to her uh, to see what's going on there, getting the signal from her. So let me just get her going here to see if we can get this program going right away. Just bear with us, being a little crazy day here. Mm, Okay, all right, I'm getting the message here from her. Okay, let me just play a video here. So I'm getting the message, and they will be joining us here very shortly with another guest here. But let me just take this quick music here from the basketball himself, and our sponsors here, so I will be right back here.
Where the time? Probably I'll be gone president. 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 Joey I'll be gone president. Probably I'll be gone president. Probably I'll be gone president because they suffering in Liberia. Yeah, that's a cat. You never want to name your own. But you never want to name your own. Anybody can become somebody, oh. So we have become African best. From there he become European best. From there he become one best. From there he become ambassador. From there he become senator, oh. Today he become president for us. Today he become president for us. Yeah, happy now. Enjoy life, remember. We go you want time, but Jabata we need to time. Jabata we need for time. Everybody enjoy yourself. Liberia enjoy yourself. Where will be where will be enjoy, thank God, thank God. Okay, Happy Joe. When I wear my babu sama mungkata. Happy Joe are the Senate. Oh, bless you are the answer, you know. On number 3, but it's a little you went in.
Welcome to Emma's Top 10 and thanks for watching. In this video, we are taking a look at the most protected presidents in Africa. These presidents are elected by the people to govern the country, so they need maximum protection in order to do their job properly. All African presidents are heavily guarded, but some African leaders go the extra mile to tighten their security and make sure their safety is guaranteed. It might interest you to know that most of the presidents on this list are presidents of countries that have suffered both political and civil unrest in recent years, thus the need for the presidents to be heavily guarded. Before we dive into the list, if you're new here, welcome. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our videos. In no particular order, here are the top 10 most protected presidents in Africa. Number 10, President of Zimbabwe, Emmerson Mnangagwa. Due to the political unrest Zimbabwe has suffered in recent years, a lot of security measures have been taken around the president to ensure his safety, especially when he is on official assignment both in and out of the country. His convoy is usually made up of high-speed motorcycles, and the president, most often than not, rides in an armored limousine followed by several presidential guards. Number 9, President of Cameroon, Paul Biya. Paul Biya has been the president of the Republic of Cameroon for 37 years, and no cases of attacks have been heard of him since the failed coup d'etat in 1984. Paul Biya rides in an armored Range Rover Sentinel, which costs approximately $500,000 and sometimes rides in an armored limousine on special occasions. He has one of the most impressive presidential motorcades in Africa. His convoy comprises of high-speed Land Cruisers and Mercedes-Benz S-Class and more than 20 high-speed motorcycles. Each time he travels out of the country for official assignments, he takes with him more than 20 bodyguards for his safety and protection. Number 8, President of Côte d'Ivoire, Alassane Ouattara. The President of Côte d'Ivoire is one of the most protected presidents in Africa. He is always spotted with heavily armed security guards both in and out of the country. His presidential car is always surrounded with bodyguards who follows his vehicle on foot till it gets out of the reach of the public. He also has a very impressive motorcade, as his convoy comprises of high-speed vehicles and motorcycles. Number 7, the King of Morocco, King Mohammed VI. The King of Morocco drives an armored Mercedes 600 Pullman while in Morocco. His motorcade normally comprises of Mercedes-Benz S500 and Range Rover models when he goes to mountainous places, a BMW 5 Series with a communications jumper, an ambulance, and always escorted by 20 police motorcycles. Considering the fact that he's the richest president in Africa, getting extra security costs him little or nothing. Number 6, President of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari. Muhammadu Buhari is the head of the most populated country in Africa and giant of Africa in terms of economy. His security and safety is of utmost importance to the people of Nigeria. Just like most presidents, he drives an armored car, and his motorcade is among the largest presidential motorcades in Africa, made up of high-speed armored Mercedes-Benz and several police motorcycles. Each time he goes on official assignments out of the country, he takes with him more than 10 bodyguards for his safety and protection. Number 5, President of Rwanda, Paul Kagame. Paul Kagame is one of the most loved presidents in Africa, since he has taken it upon himself to call out bad leadership in Africa, as well as expose bad Western influence in African politics, thus the need for high protection. He has one of the most expensive presidential cars in Africa, an armored Range Rover Sentinel, which costs approximately $550,000. His motorcade comprises of several police motorcycles, high-speed Mercedes-Benz and Land Cruisers, and security guard who always surrounds his car each time he makes a public appearance. Number 4, President of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa. The newly elected president of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, makes it to the list of the top 10 most protected presidents in Africa. His armored motorcade is very impressive, and he is always guarded by heavily armed presidential guards, especially when he is on official duties. Number 3, President of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta. Uhuru Kenyatta is one of the most protected presidents in Africa. His presidential car is an armored Land Cruiser 200. His convoy is usually made up of more than 10 high-speed police motorcycles and several high-speed expensive cars such as Mercedes-Benz S-Class and Range Rovers. Each time he
Alright.
goes on official
Are you
assignment
there
out of the
now?
country, he takes along with him more
Yeah.
than 10
You
security
getting me
guards for
right?
his safety and protection. Number 2. President of Guinea, Alpha Condé. The President of Guinea most often than not
I'm
rides in an
getting you
armored
loud and clear.
Mercedes-Benz Pullman. He is accompanied by more than 10 presidential high-speed police motorcycles and high-speed Land Cruisers. Each time there is a ceremony where he needs to get close to the citizens, he is protected by more than 20 bodyguards, which he takes along with him each time he goes on an international mission. Number 1. The King of Swaziland, King Swati III. King Swati III has been the leader of the Kingdom of Swaziland since 1986, and he is among the most protected presidents in Africa. He most often than not appears in public shirtless, which according to him is a way of respecting his African culture and values. It comprises of high-speed police motorcycles and heavily armed security guards, which he takes along with him wherever he goes to. Thanks so much for watching this video. But before we go, we would like to know, which African president is your favorite African leader and why? Please leave a comment below and the best comment will be pinned. If you did enjoy this video, do well to give it a thumbs up and do not forget to subscribe and share with your friends.
Joe, are you there? Yeah. All right. You want to get a camera? I'm not seeing your camera. Okay, good. All right, good. Okay, it's much better. You guys hear me loud and clear? All right. Yeto, are you hearing me too as well? Okay, good. Okay, so we guys get ready. We're going to start the program now. All right, guys, we want to welcome our viewers and listeners across the globe. Thank you for bearing with us here. Two of my distinguished guests, they are here after a hectic evening here. I'm not sure what's going on, but it's better late than never. So the professor is here. Let's go right to her. And we'll also be bringing the guest here to introduce herself here. Let me go to Texas where we have Professor Joel here this evening. As usual, Health Talk right here on the Liberia Public Radio and LPR TV. Professor, thank you for tuning in, for joining us this evening. Being so patient, they've been crazy. Yeah. Good evening. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Okay. So we're gonna be bringing the other guests. Will you do the introduction, or you just want her to do it by herself?
She can introduce
Okay.
herself.
Okay. All right. Okay. So let's see here, and we're gonna get our second guest here. Also standing by from Virginia, making her first appearance. Hopefully, we will also have you here to be making contribution on this network here. Madam, good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Good. Good to have you here. Make sure here that our audio, everything is good here, and we will get this program going here, guys. Just okay. This is where the trouble is coming from. Let me get it here. Okay, Joel has been on this network here, and our viewers are listening to you out there here. Quickly introduce yourself, and we'll get right down to the issue for the benefit of our listening audience. You too.
Sure. So I am Yato McIntosh, and I am a public health professional. To be specific, I'm an epidemiologist. So I've worked in the public health field for a number of years. I know most people know me as the owner or founder of Kamiba Productions and creator of Liberia Fashion Week. But I'm here today in the public health capacity And I'm glad to be on. Thanks.
Oh my goodness. It looked like I'm a politics guy. I don't know how I'm going to handle here this evening to have two professionals here. But please, if I call anything here, folks listening out, I disregard it. What is important here is the substance of the discussion here and where we're going to be going. Okay, so let me just bring in Professor Jewett. For the most part, both of them going to be visible and will be in the background to do what is Kian. Okay, Professor Jewett, let me just bring you in. She has introduced herself. And so let me just bring you in here. Again, good to be here this evening. Let me just go right to you. What's going to be the point of discussion here this evening?
We are going to discuss and or talk about HIV and AIDS, which is the human immunovirus and acquired immune deficiency syndrome.
Okay. Let me see here. Darius, well, no sign from the guest. Please look at you. That you guys shouldn't confuse her here. Please look at your audio here because from what I'm seeing here, everything looks okay here. Darius, again, please check if there's we want to make sure that the audio is also right. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Me? I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So then, what's the point of this discussion here? Why should we know about this at this time? What is the importance of it?
Oh, as with any of a person's overall health, they need to know their status, especially when it comes to AIDS or HIV. You need to know your status in order to prevent, again, the spread of the disease. But also, um, if you have HIV, there's no cure for AIDS or HIV, but if you know your status, you can get proper treatment and counseling to help you maintain your best optimal health. So knowing your status is very crucial, not just for yourself, but also for the public.
Hmm. Wow. Okay. Let's take it from the public health perspective here. And like I said, I completely are going to be like a little bit novice here this evening here, and this is what I brought you guys here to help us out here this evening. I take it up from your own professions. What is the importance of that?
Well, it is important for us to discuss HIV/AIDS because, first and foremost, as my colleague, the professor, has said, it is something that is out here. We don't have a cure for it, although they have treatment somehow to enable people to be able to live with HIV/AIDS. From a public health perspective, our goal is to actually prevent it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So public health always comes from the sense of prevention measures. So from a public health perspective, our goal is to ensure that we reduce the number of newly infected with HIV. So 2000, by 2018, we had about 1 million people newly infected with HIV. From the public health perspective, our goal is to reduce the number of people who are infected with HIV/AIDS. One, right?
Mm-hmm.
I should say that's the primary goal. And then also for those who already have HIV/AIDS, you want to indeed make sure that they know their status and have a treatment. So it is very crucial that we discuss the disease so people can be educated on the disease and be able to take the measures to protect their own health or seek treatment if they have to.
Wow. Okay. So, how let me just ask this here. As we speak, what is has it been minimized? Is the treatment been very effective? Do you think, guys?
Yes, there have been treatment wise, they have made a lot of advancement in treatment wise because you have people or individuals that have AIDS, HIV living longer than the estimated time frame that was when this disease first came out. It was like a death sentence. But now you have people that have AIDS and live a longer, healthier life again, it's because of treatment, and also they're being more proactive in their own health status and health care regimen. So you have not just like the not Michael Jordan, excuse me, Johnson that who is affluent, has the money, and he's living a longer time. But you have the average Joe who does not have that much amount of money, but still is having a much healthier and productive life, and they're living longer, better, healthier, the most healthy life that they can with the disease process. So again, treatment wise, there has been a lot of advancement in treatment and different other therapies that has been combined as well. So that's something that's very helpful as well.
Yoto, I guess you want to come in.
Yeah, definitely. In addition to well, what Joel had just said, obviously people are living longer because of the treatment, and she's on point there when she says that the treatment regimen is more available or is available to more people versus in the past. Yes, we still see some disparities when you come to with even within this great U.S., you still see disparities there. And when we come to what will be classified as low income countries, we definitely see some disparities there as well. But for the most part, once you know your status, compared to what it used to be before, treatment is readily available for people,
So
and the treatment regimen is effective.
it's effective. Now, how these two institutions, being a health care professional and folks that are actually in the medical field, how those two institutions collaborate in terms of getting this sort of information that is necessary for patients and or people that have those sort of sicknesses? How do these two institutions team or work out?
Well, I would speak from my perspective as a primary care provider. You have when patient come in, or when you're doing any basic laboratory testing or serological testing, you gather the patient information, and there's two different types of testing when it comes to HIV. It can be done anonymously, or it can also be done in a confidential way. And then when it's done anonymously, the patient demographic or data does not get carried over. So that way, no one looking at their chart or their record can be able to identify it, and they'll just use numbers or certain criteria. They will not have an actual identification that if someone was just looking at the patient's chart, they'll be like, okay, this is Joel's chart, or this is Yeto's chart. So they'll use more of a numeric, kind of to not necessarily secure or hide the patient information. So again, they'll do more of anonymous testing, and then once if the results come back, or however it turns out, if it's in a negative or a positive way, they can also do the confidential testing. That way, that information gets sent to the local state, or to the CDC, to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and then they keep a statistical data from either from the person ethnicity, socioeconomic back. They just keep all of those data that when they do statistical testing, and this is where Yatos will come in, because they do more of the epidemiologist part, and they're looking at different factors and different statistical data to put together whether if it's locally, statewide, federally, or if it's done globally, and then it will disseminate those information out to the public to let us know what specific group of or population is being affected at a higher rate, or who is going down at a lesser, or is doing more within that community to lessen or curb the prevalence. And I'll let her talk about that, because that's her field. I just gather data and give it to her, and she do.
And it works as almost as it works in real life, right? You gather it and you pass it over to us at
Yes.
the health department. So it's working just as it will work in real life, and that's true. So most times, people get tested at the primary care facility, or actually they also may get tested at the local health department, especially here in the U.S. Right? And for us epidemiologists, or I should say the field of epidemiology, we study the distribution and pattern of diseases, right? So this getting all this information on the data side is true. It gets us the information to understand more about the distribution, the pattern of diseases, how the disease, in this case, HIV/AIDS, is progressing, who's been most affected and why they are, and all those information. But from the health department standpoint too, we are also not only gathering, the health department is there not to only gather the statistics, but they want to make sure that we are addressing the issue. And even, so this is the U.S. Health Department, but it's the same with Ministry of Health or NPHIL, or whoever's addressing public health in various countries. The goal is not to just tell us what, or just to show a snapshot of what, of how the population is affected by a particular disease, but the goal is also to introduce interventions in a way that will prevent the disease or control the spread. So from when most times when a lab result gets back positive, for instance, and if it's a new HIV positive case, most times what most local health departments have, they have what they call disease like specialists. And what they do is they are mostly health educators, health counselors, I should say, and they meet with whoever is, they contact whoever the newly diagnosed with HIV/AIDS, and try to assess, the exposure to others, provide counseling as well, because obviously, if someone you hearing newly that they have HIV, it's devastating. So from the public health side of things, the health counselors normally meet, assess, you know, assess the exposure to other people, and if they find that this person probably has multiple contacts, the goal of that disease specialist or health counselor would be to try to get the other people tested as well, so they could
So,
ensure that we get we're able to understand how the disease is spreading, or get people into treatment to prevent further decline into the AIDS status and so forth. So
so
just a quick summary. There's a lot going on there, but just a quick summary of what happened.
yeah. So let me just come in a little bit. If I'm not making sense here, please get me to the point because we brought you guys here to help us out and to help the community. It is important that we create this sort of awareness. Who does the tracing? Is it from you guys, from the healthcare provider, or who?
Tracing is done on all levels, from the healthcare provider to the local state department to her. Then they, like she was saying, they gather the information, put the statistics together. Not just putting the statistical data together, but they're more in ways of preventing the spread of those deadly diseases or potential deadly diseases that could be spreading rampantly throughout the community and stuff. So what they do, and there's going back, and I'll let her talk about her section more than I can. I mean, I know a little bit of it, but with the HIV and AIDS, there's two different subtypes. There's HIV-1 and HIV-2. And basically with HIV-1, what you would see that is the primary type. And those is more of, is worldwide or globally, the HIV-1. As compared to the HIV-2, is primarily seen in West Africa. There's different strands of it. When I say 1 and 2, there's different strands of it, and that's how with the epidemiologists, they do, once the results come out or those various tests come out, then they will kind of do those subtype of where specific or where did that particular strain come from.
So quickly,
So that's what it's associated with.
okay, before you to come in here, how the 1 and 2 comes about? How?
It's just basically like if you get the flu
Okay.
or let's say the flu or pneumonia, there's different type of, when you see different type of viruses or diseases out there, there's different type of strains that makes them identifiable, or that they're easy for them to identify and to see what particular those viral viruses coming from. So they'll put them in like a category, basically, to try to separate like strain 1 and strain 2 together. So that way, when they go in and collect those different data, they can, like I said, kind of pinpoint where region is coming from. So, like I said, HIV-2 is primarily seen in West Africa, and HIV-1 is basically global or worldwide. And those are more what we call pathogenic or infectious type of diseases that you would see. And it's more HIV-1, which is locally is more common than HIV-2, like I said, which is more just in a regional part of West Africa.
Okay. I guess you two wanted to come in.
Yeah.
Definitely. So from the health department, health perspective, was regional tracing of the whole process from testing to contact rather and tracing is all one in terms of preventing or controlling the spread of HIV infection. So the health department only does contact tracing, especially with new HIV cases or newly reported HIV cases, where they meet with the person and try to gather the exposure or interview the person and try to gather, okay, what was exposure to other people, who else were exposed and so forth. And that's where contact tracing comes in HIV infection. It's trying, I'm so sorry, but it's trying to see who else may have been exposed in order for them to be tested.
Hold on 1 second. Somebody listening to something out there because I'm getting the feedback. Either somebody trying to listen. If someone is listening to one of you guys, you gotta just lower the audio because it's coming right back to give that sort of distorted sound. Okay, go ahead. I'm getting the feedback. Either somebody playing the audio, somebody playing like is playing or trying to listen to the program. Okay, go ahead. I think much better.
Okay.
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay. So I was just saying, from the health department perspective, we, obviously we are trying to detect HIV infection, right? To be able to know the pattern or know the distribution, you have to know who's ill out there. So obviously, the parts of HIV screening is to determine or to detect HIV infection in the community. And the diagnosing is along the same path, and also in addition to get people into treatment if they are positive. And if they're not positive and they're engaging in high risk activities, it is also an opportunity to educate the person on HIV, how it spreads, what the virus is, and the impacts of it, and so forth. Now, if the person ends up being positive, it is also an opportunity to counsel whoever's infected with the HIV infection and make refer to supportive services, especially, here in the U.S., they have other supportive services that they could refer them to help them along the way. Some people might need mental health therapy for being newly diagnosed with HIV infection, and also it's to determine who are their sex partners. So managing the sex partners, or it may not even be the sex partners, it may be who were the injection drug partners, because we also that it is shared through injection drug usage. So determining those partners and trying to get those partners tested. The whole goal of it, the whole goal of HIV testing, and the health department, we're talking specifically here about HIV today, but day 2 STI STIs in general, so sexually transmitted infections generally at the health department. But we are speaking about HIV here, so that's why I'm making an emphasis on that. So they want to manage those partners as well. They want to bring those partners in, go through the same routine with them, get them screened or tested, find out their status. If they're negative, educate them about, the risky behavior. And then if they are not negative, if they are positive rather, um, take them to the counseling, connect them to social or support services, and get them into treatment as well. So that is the the layout there. The whole program is to detect HIV infection in the community, get people in testing if you have, get people in treatment if they are positive, and educate people if they are negative. Now, that's just one aspect of what they do. So that at the health department, people are sitting around talking their fingers or waiting for HIV cases to land on their desk, right? So obviously you have the health promotion aspect of it, where you have all this education out there about what is HIV, what type of, the two different types of HIV infection, how it can be spread and how you can prevent, the use of condom and all this other things you see out there as well. So it's a mixture of things at the health department in order to control the infection of HIV or the spread, I should say.
Wow, this is a huge thing. Yeah, Professor, I guess you wanted to come into as well.
Yeah, as you had stated, once the person gets diagnosed with it, as healthcare providers, we will be making those referrals, and that can include to the health department or her place of employment, and then they will break it down into the epidemiologist part. But also too, those as she stated, they will probably need counseling, because to get that diagnosis is something so immediately, like I said, not so much so nowadays, especially with the various treatments and different things out there that can treat the disease process itself. So, but that's like an ultimate death sentence. A lot of people think when that happens to them or when they're diagnosed with them again, it's basically going out there, providing education, as well as awareness to those various disease processes, not just the HIV, but there's a plethora of different sexually transmitted infections out there that needs to be brought forth, and people need to be educated about, because as we're speaking about HIV, the mode of transmission for HIV is through blood products, blood, and that can happen also through, excuse me, semen or vaginal secretions, as well as breast milk. If a mom is infected and she's breastfeeding, that can be passed on to the newborn or to the infant as well, and also through sexual contact. That's another. Usually, that's what people would think when they think of HIV as well, and also perinatal as well. Those are another factors that can happen. And I know back prior to with all the testing, and when we say blood products, people would get concerned, or well, if people go and donate blood, am I going to get it? There's so much more rigorous testing or what, not really training, but what's the word I'm looking for? Vigorous testing, that if someone's going to donate blood and they potentially might have it, they will figure that out, so that person cannot even donate. So there's more vigorous testing and procedure or criteria set forth, that the chance of getting the disease or illness through blood transmission is less, and is not that big of a deal no more. And a lot of times too, like she stated, with sharing of needles and all of those high risk factors will put people up there for also obtaining the disease. And we also have to remember that, sneezing, coughing, or sharing bathroom utensils, spoons, you don't get it like that. So those are things, again, with education and awareness, will bring forth of all those different preventative measures, or things that an individual or the public at large can do to prevent those various the spread of that disease.
Interesting. So, establishing this case, for example, if an individual, he or she is identified being the HIV, it comes from the healthcare provider and it trickles down to the public health personnel, correct? You guys share information the same way?
Oh yes, there has to be data kept on that patient, and it's not like you're going out there to announce it to the whole world because you also have to maintain that patient's confidentiality through the HIPAA law, which is the Patient Privacy Act. You can't just go and give information, and even as a healthcare provider, let's say I had a friend that was positive. I have no business going into that person's records to look for it because you can get terminated. There's so many things that is implemented. Even as we log in to look at patient's record, if you're not taking care of that patient or you're not providing care for that patient, you have absolutely no need to be in that patient record because that can you can be determinated. You can be terminated rather, and also there's can be you can be fined. There's different things that can be done, and you're not supposed to go and talk about the patient status to family members or to other people. You can, but if it happens, you can get, like I said, there's various consequences with that.
Okay.
And as we log in, like I said, on a computer or when we're keeping records of our patient charting, they keep track of everything.
Who does that?
The facility, basically some with a computer system, it would determine, let's say for example, if I were to pull out medication from the Omnicell or from the Pyxis, or if I was to log in and look at a patient record that I wasn't taking care of. The moment that I log in with my information on my account, I am being tracked by that computer system.
Wow. So, okay, let me bring in Madam McIntosh. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
So, in this case, if an individual is identified, and let's do a little quick case study, and that person is sent directly to you, what would be your very first step that you want to initiate from your own
Okay,
profession?
so a patient could come to the local health department and with using a case study, U.S., because I'm using a U.S. case study here, for instance, and I'm sure this applies possibly to other countries as well. They just have their own protocol. But a patient can come to the health department on two ways. They could be referred from their primary care provider, right? And that provider could say, this person tested positive and this is the information. And once in the U.S., there are diseases that CDC consider reportable diseases, right? So there are a list of diseases that CDC considers, and when I say CDC, I'm talking about the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
Everyone has said that lately since they've been on.
I know, because when people hear CDC, they freak out. They are talking about the political drama that is ongoing. So
You gotta be very distinctive because some people think it's the political party of Liberia.
I said, why? I said, but these people was talking about CDC in Liberia. That's not the CDC in Liberia we are talking about. We are talking about the Center for Disease Control. Go
We're
ahead.
talking about these centers for disease control and prevention.
Correct.
There are many, so there are diseases we consider reportable diseases, right? And CDC considers reportable diseases, and those diseases are those physicians or healthcare providers, I should say, so whether nurse practitioners, whatever, but the healthcare providers are responsible to report those diseases to their local health department. And then the local health department picks it up. So that's one way that information will come to us. Also, those diseases could also get reported from the lab, right? So the laboratory, if they get a positive test from a reportable disease, they too have to report that to the health department. So they too will report that. So you could get that laying on your desk either from the healthcare provider or from the laboratory, right? So once that comes on your desk, you begin the routine I described earlier. But let me go back a little bit. Also, someone may not have a primary care provider, someone may not have insurance. And not to say the health department sees only people with health insurance, but if sometimes some people come to the health department because they feel more comfortable to come to the Department of Health for that kind of reason. It's not the only thing we do there. They do vaccines, they do other things there as well. Even some health department does pre-screening, like pap smears for screening for cancer or, so forth. So the health department does other things. But sometimes people feel more comfortable coming to the health department for those STI-related things as well. Because that's historically been where people think they could get tested. So someone who literally walks into the health department's clinic and request testing. That's possible
Is that
as well.
is that normal?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Did you say that normal?
Yeah, people just
Yeah.
walk
Okay.
into the.
That's absolutely the health department clinics actually do stay booked.
Yeah, and it's actually encouraged as well that they because again they're trying to prevent the spread of those various diseases and sexually transmitted infections. So they are actually open and they want people to go in and get tested, so that way they can narrow down or identify those that are effective with it and also potential people out there with the disease or
Yeah.
infection.
And if I may add, one of the things the health department or health departments across the U.S., for instance, try to make sure the clinic is welcoming, right? Because most times when people hear health department, they think government, they just, think the extreme. And most health departments want to make sure that the clinic is actually welcoming to people coming in. You have people who come in here who are mothers or who are mothers to be, right? So, or you have people who just they are nervous. They think they may have been exposed to HIV somehow through one means or the other, through the various, whether it was intercourse or injection drugs or anything, and they want to know their status. So they come into the health department and they request. The health department also actively promote testing, right? So there are days where some of the most health departments, there are days where they will actually promote testing, like December 1st, where HIV, is day. They might have outreach to a particular place to promote testing. They might have testing at a local facility, meet the people where they are instead of the people even coming to the health department in order to do testing. They do that in June as well, National Testing Day for HIV. They do that as well. And health departments also study. I keep on saying we because I worked at the health department for a long time before. I keep saying we, but it is something that the health departments actually study. They study even I'm so sorry, but they study even to an extent how people are going to get to their clinic, right? So the study if the health department is located on a transportation route that makes it easier for that person who doesn't have a car to get to the clinic. So all these things, is part of strategic planning, strategic management of a health department. And yes, and that all plays and factors into that case walking through the door and getting tested for HIV. And once they do get tested, then what I described earlier begins. If you're negative, you get the health education component of it, and if you're positive, you get the health education, but then also the contact tracing begins. You want to manage those who you may have come in contact with, and who you may have exposed, and then you want to get those people tested as well.
Wow, that's a tedious step, though.
Yeah,
So,
they will, like she was saying, they will, before, even after, before the test, they have what we call pre-test counseling. And the pre-test counseling, basically what it's talking about within that particular section of the pre-test counseling, discussing about various preventative measures, as she stated, and also risk factors that led to them to the transmission of the HIV or whatever as sexually transmitted infections, which is commonly known as STI. And also, those testing can be done either voluntarily or it can be done on a confidential level. So that's part of the pre-testing. And then they have, after once the test has been done or is either positive or negative, usually if it's positive, they'll do what we call counseling post counseling testing, and that what entails again about the need for additional testing if need be, as well as to clarify the prior or previous tests as well, and also for promotion of safe behavior for that, for particularly the infected individual, and also going forward, because just because you have HIV, that doesn't necessarily mean they will stop having sex. So you want to be going that preventative measure to prevent the spread of that disease. And also, again, in post counseling, they will do more of releasing that information to various departments and different healthcare providers.
It's not.
But again, if it's released, it can be done, like I stated, either on a anonymously or in a more confidential level for that patient. So that doesn't mean the whole information is out there. They're just doing, because they're doing it to just track the numbers to see again if it's increasing in certain areas, certain populations, certain ethnic group, especially with women. Women at a higher risk for getting diagnosed with HIV than majority of the other population. And again, African American or any of those race have a more higher rate as well.
Yeah, I guess you too. You want to comment?
Yeah, so if I may just come in there too as well and add to what's being said. So one of the things people get very uncomfortable with is saying, for instance, their name and so forth. But once you're positive, then it goes all the way up to the highest seat in the country. That's not how it works. In order for data to be passed on, you have to take those identifiers away from it. So even the, uh, the when a local health department, I should say, share data, they do the identifier. They have the information, right? It's by law that they have to do so. So they might say, we have.
I mean, interject. You're using too many your medical identifiers. Telling people that they need the date of birth, they things that.
That's correct, but I could break it down for them, right? So, for example, for example, let's say you come in and your name is John Brown, right? And you get tested and John Brown is positive. John Brown's name is not going to be spotted out to say, oh, John, from the public health perspective, John Brown name's not going to be released and say, John Brown is positive, let the whole world know. What happens is if that data stays within the clinic, and as the professor actually said, if you are not working on that case, you can't even go in there to lead people's files.
Regardless you work in the institution, you're not supposed to do anything.
Correct. It's on a need-to-know basis.
Yeah, it's on a need-to-know basis. You have to be working on that person file. So that person information is protected. What is actually shared when you're talking about disease pattern and so forth when it comes to epidemiology, what is actually shared is actually basically numbers and demographics, right? So we're seeing higher, it might be it might be a race, it might be location in terms of region or, DC versus Minnesota versus, so forth. That's the information that is actually shared with without the person's name. So all of that is removed. What is left there are, like age and so forth, because they help us characterize the disease to determine who's getting, affected more. And just to even talk about behaviors, I know we're going to get into the behavior part because we do have to educate people who are listening about the risky behavior and potential for exposure. But some of the things that actually get done is that some of the information gathered from research studies and other evaluations that they do with HIV clinics and so forth, they basically gather behaviors, right? I worked on one of the earliest projects I worked on
So what is an
was
example of the
HIV.
what is the example of the behavior you're talking about? What specific, what sort of
Yeah,
behavior?
and so I just would go. So one of the earliest projects I worked on, for instance, was looking at HIV patients and even what would be considered linking to teenagers, right? Adolescents' health, right? So you're looking at some of the behaviors, whether it is sex without protection or other high risk in terms of alcohol being involved,
Okay.
or drugs being involved. Those are all things that we found to be compounding or to put it in a better another term, other things we found to contribute to exposure, right? So someone not making that proper decision, not to say that happens all the time because we've seen HIV cases where you have would have not the drugs, who's not on drugs or who's not alcohol dependent, and they happen to be infected by a partner who's supposed to even be a
In a
monogamous
monogamous
partner, right?
relationship.
Yeah, so we've seen that happen as well. But we know that those behaviors, including, let's just say having sex, right? Any sex, period, just put you at risk of contracting HIV. So it's important to know the status of whoever you're engaging with, right? It's important to know the status of whoever you're engaging with. We've also found through looking at a lot of these data, we found that anal sex, for instance, puts a person at a higher risk of contracting HIV, right? And more so to the person who's receiving, on the receiving end, when it comes to anal sex, right? So we see all these behaviors. We are able to study them in epidemiology, and we are able to come back out and say, look, we are seeing this is the common behavior, and this is what's putting people more at risk of contracting the disease.
Wow. So I know the professor want to come in, but do patients usually cooperate? Someone went in there and this person is tested positive, and you want this individual to see who perhaps have been compromised. How difficult it is to get those kind of person to first of all to even look in the eyes of of a patient or client to say, hey, this is the situation, but this is your own part to play. Do they usually cooperate? Why it takes to get them to tell their partners or people that they have associated with? I guess it's a difficult one.
It is. I mean, sometimes you have the infected person will tell the partner, or they don't necessarily have to tell them. The health department will contact once they give the list of those person that they have engaged or were intimate with. They'll gather the statistic, gather the information, and reach out to those people so that they can get tested and also know their status. So that can be difficult because sometimes you have people who will be scared because if somebody tell you that this person have given you that disease, your first initial reaction is want to do something, but that's not what that's again, that's some of the thing that they have curbed and taken away all of those demographic, like the personal information, the person name, date of birth, where that way it makes it where they can't necessarily identify them through those with those information, again fearful that somebody might come out after them for revenge and do something lethal or detrimental to that person. So excuse me, like she was talking, HIV sexual transmission at higher risk annual sex or having sex in the rectum. That's a high risk as well. And greater risk is towards women, as I initially stated as well. And HIV infection can be reduced also like this the PrEP and stuff, but the most effective way is abstinence, but or not having sex at all. But who really participate in that nowadays with this, instant gratification society that we all live in and want to be sexually pleased or things, so people do things that can put them at risk. As you stated, sometimes it can be because you're inebriated or drunk or have used certain drugs, and I will lessen or not put you in a proper state of mind to be rational and do things that will protect yourself. And sometimes too, when emotions involved, when you with somebody that you like, emotion involves, you will necessarily negate or not protect yourself because you thinking that person is supposed to be faithful to you or you're to them. And like I said, when monogamous relationship, those are sometimes women, especially again because with women they will have a higher risk for that, for contracting a disease from a partner. And not just that, also like she stated, drug use. So those are all different things that we want to educate the patient, especially when it comes to injection drug use, to avoid those high risk behaviors that we talked about. And also if they're going to share, not to share needle. And then they have made it so with the public health, another thing that they do with awareness and prevention, and sometimes it can be controversial because they would give needles, clean needles out to IV drug user to use to prevent them sharing needles so they don't contract those the HIV infection.
Okay,
And also that they need to clean their equipment, so again, to not spread it, because any bodily fluids, semen, vaginal secretion, blood, all of those ways HIV transmission.
okay. Let me bring in Yoto. That's a quite an interesting one. Yeah, you guys will try to minimize, to control, and you giving it up. Don't you see the ordinary person out there like, hey, this is being done on the contrary. You giving it to people. You are supplying, and potentially it could be misused. What is the essence of that? What's the criteria saying you
Well,
even giving it up?
that
I'll let her.
varies from that
They're
varies
gonna do it
from
anyway, so they might find out. I'll let you answer. Let me be quiet.
yeah, that varies sometimes from state to state, possibly. But it is something. It is shown that, or the logic behind that is that you have a cluster of people who are sharing needles, right? And you end up increasing uh, HIV infections because they're sharing needles. So how do you address that? And there's sort of what has been shown to be effective is obviously first trying to get them help when it comes to treatment for them to get over drug use. And this has gone to the place where drug use has now been drug use is now considered a disorder, right? Substance use disorder, because
Yeah.
before people left people on their own to deal with anything that is substance related, almost like you say the black sheep of our nation, right? So now they have even turned it a disorder. It's called substance use disorder, and public health has been pushing that for a while, that this is actually a disorder, right? So the first thing is to get those people help. You want to be able to get them treatment, for them to be able treatment. And I'm not on the on the psychiatric side or the mental health side. But you want to be able to get them treatment on that side, whether it's a combination of medicine and therapy or however to do it on that side. You want to be able to get them treatment for them to be able to overcome substance use, right? That's the first thing. So that's the primary goal, we say. But or that's your gold standard, as we would say. But in a world where you see that people are sharing needles, and you have a cluster of people sharing needles, there has been interventions where people will not local health department per se, but you've seen other organizations will partner up to teach people about uh, the risk around sharing. Most times at the health department, we teach them about the risk, right? That's what we do. We teach them about the risk of sharing needles. But you see other nonprofit organizations and so forth, they normally will even, I've seen an intervention where, needles, that's an intervention, rather someone legal for clean needle versus them using something that is contaminated. But as a health department, we focus on reducing your risk, right? So we focus on the risk education portion in terms of saying, okay, you can't share needles, right? You just can't share needles because this places you at a higher risk of becoming. And then most people say, why the health department have someone who's, on drugs according to them, and they're letting them go, they don't lock them up. Well, we are seeing this over and over that this is a disorder that needs to be addressed. We address heart diseases that way. We address other things that way. We need to address substance use as what it is, a disorder, and get people treatment. So that is more so where we come from, health department wise.
That is true because we use also the what we call the DSM, and which is basically the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, and that has been, and it's usually that manual is usually used within the United States, not so much outside of the United States. That's what they use, and it has all the, as she's listed, just as they have, like, for example, bipolar, schizophrenia, drug induced or substance abuse is part of a mental disorder, because a lot of times too, what you would see, what we call like the comorbidity, you would see someone with let's say bipolar or schizophrenia, they'll result to end up using substance or drugs to help ease their pain or whatever situation that they're going through, so that way you have like both the physical aspect of it and then the mental part of it, so that makes it even more difficult for these patients to be able to get out there, and because the mental part of it is also debilitating, and then you're compounding that, as she stated, other contributing factors that increases your level at a higher rate. It makes it difficult for these patients to get treatment, and they go out there and jeopardize or put themselves at risk or do things that they won't necessarily do when they were more in a rational state of mind. So those are things that we take into consideration as well.
Wow.
And if I may come in, I know Joel said one thing that I don't want it to kind of slip by, because we were talking about women, right? Women being more at risk. So I just wanted, I just wanted to make a point to bring that out a little bit more from into the discussion. It is a fact that women more at risk. It's also we've seen through research, and it's actually a scientific fact as well out there, that a woman who's involved in what we call intimate partner violence, right?
Yeah.
A situation, what someone may call domestic violence, right? They are more at risk than another woman who's not of contracting HIV. And people who say, okay, why is someone who's domestically been abused more at risk? You have to think about the factors that are there. You know, if their partner is out there and promiscuous, for the lack of a better word, and then come home and also abusive to that woman, you realize that if a woman in an intimate partner violence situation that's not truly, is normally forced to have sex when she's, even against her will. And then that whole thing comes into place of marital rape, right? People say it's impossible to be married, for instance, and be raped. It is possible. It is possible. So if you're in a situation where domestic violence or what we call intimate partner violence is the same term actually is in place, we have seen that a woman then is I think you actually have a statistic that said 1.5 times greater. I have to look up the stats, but I think there's a statistic Professor Joel has about that. I think it's 1.5 times greater. But either way, the woman is at a greater risk of contracting HIV if the person is with an abusive partner. Just wanted to add that. And and I know one more thing to add with that, we've seen an increase in human trafficking and specifically sex trafficking, right? And we see that women are also at greater risk of being trafficked, sex, like for sex
Prostitution.
trafficking, right?
Mhm.
For prostitution and so forth. And what is normally even considered trafficking, you've got to have the act where you're recruiting, you're transporting, you're harboring someone, you're receiving someone, transferring them, and if you're doing that on a force or abduction, fraud, deception, abuse of power, however those terms, and you're doing that for a particular purpose of exploitation, right? So in this case, with sex trafficking, the exploitation is normally sex, right? You're using them to, for prostitution or other sexual exploitation. And in that case, we are finding more and more that the women, even who are being sex trafficked, they have what we say confining factors. They have more things added to it because now they are at risk because of the sexual behavior. Sometimes they are also on drugs because of the trying to cope with the situation they found themselves in. So then you have all those factors coming into play and increases their risk as well for contracting the disease. So you can see why there's a lot of focus on winning HIV globally.
Wow.
And also too to talk about mother to baby or mother to child transmission is another one too that's very is increasing up there in rate. But again, due to the various antiviral therapeutic treatment, is lessening that. So that can happen. When I say what you call it transmission between mom and kid, if a female is pregnant, usually they won't let them, or if they have any one of those reportable diseases like the chlamydia, herpes, all of those, they won't. Sometimes they will give them treatment. They will start taking treatment prenatally before the baby is born. That way to help reduce the baby chance of getting those various type of infectious diseases out there.
But is
And
that
at times
100%?
too, if they're in an active state where the disease is present, they will opt to give them a cesarean section or C-section, so that way the baby does not get birth through the birth canal, because that also increases the baby risk of exposures to those various sexually transmitted infectious diseases.
Is that 100% when that happens?
When what happens?
When they give that sort of C-section like to prevent, is there anything guaranteed, or it just meant to minimize the potential risk of the child? Is that the reason or what?
It does, but then also they will be on a therapeutic regimen prior to the baby is born. And usually when a baby is born, they will get tested few times after birth, because again, the baby is still depending on using the mom's antibody or antigen. So if the baby gets tested and it comes out positive, they'll do another test again, maybe like 18 months later, till that baby is able to fully develop his or her own antibodies to be able to differentiate or separate the various serologic testing that they will do out there. Because again, like I said, when a baby is in the womb, they're sharing in utero, they're sharing the moms. They have that placenta transmission of various nutrients that they share. And then when the baby come out again, so the baby tests positive doesn't necessarily mean that they will have AIDS or HIV, AIDS rather, because they'll have to do more further testing so the baby is able to build his or her own immunity or immunological factors, so to determine if the baby has that. So a lot of times with the treatment that their mom has received, it has been shown that it will greatly reduce the rate of transmission.
Wow. Yep. Your turn.
I know.
Yes, and in addition to that, you know, like you said, is to minimize the risk, right, of the child getting being infected with HIV. Also, when a baby is born and if someone is HIV positive, it is encouraged. The mom is told not to breastfeed, right,
Correct.
especially here in the U.S. And that is to also minimize that particular risk of that child getting HIV AIDS as well. So just that she said everything perfectly. I just wanted to add that part.
Thank you.
So, Professor, let me ask you here, and both of you, what is considered as a final stage of HIV?
Um, the final stage, you have to go through what once they do the testing, they will do like the we with HIV, the T cells or the helper cells will be able to help fight the infection. But what happened is the HIV will attach to those antigens and then kind of replicate or makes its more of its own virus on top of that. So that way it makes it difficult for the virus or the shell that is encapsulated to fight off those different infections. And as the disease process advances to the HIV level, that's when you would have like the CD4, the viral, the load viral would be less than 200 or 250. And usually the range, and I on a laboratory testing part of it when I talk about that. So you have a normal CD4 supposed to be between at least above 300 or more than that. So when it drops down to less than 250 or 200, then that person will be diagnosed with the advanced part of the HIV, which is AIDS.
Hmm. Wow. This is scary. So, I hope I'm not running you guys' time up. Again, I want to apologize.
No, we having, well, I'm having a good.
I'm having a
But
good time.
yeah, this is kind of important. Sometimes we want to undo politics because here we are in this global war today with this virus that globally is affecting
Well, that did not
our
lock
society.
everybody down.
Yeah, a lot of people down. I keep running out of rice. My man telling me from Sacramento I should send him rice when I'm looking for a year. So this is a serious problem. So,
So can I, before you start that, I know, and I probably should have said this. What you will see, like some of the, like I said, there's four stages of the HIV, or yeah, HIV disease. So you will see where in the initial stage, some of the signs and symptoms that we will see, that a patient will start having, like the night sweats,
hmm,
and also persistent shortness of breath or difficulty breathing. You will see some of that. The weight loss will be more prominent as the disease process advances into the HIV level or stage. They can even have the shingles, and shingles is basically, if they have shingles, that's another form of the herpes family. So that just it lays dormant. Then, when due to stress or anything that traumatic happen, they will get that part of it. So that can also happen. Those will be signs and symptoms that you will see. And sometimes, even if it gets to the advanced stage, they can become forgetful, dementia, and it has different other complications. Like I said, diagnosis of the final stage, which is the HIV infection of that or the AIDS, is when they have again that CD4, the T lymphocytes would dip down, or that count would be less than 200. And that is indicative that it has reached the advanced or the final stage, which is AIDS. And basically, when a patient have reached that stage, they will succumb or end up dying due to not necessarily the disease itself or the infection itself. They will die more of a different, what we call opportunistic infections or diseases, stuff like common tuberculosis, common cough, because again, their immune system is so, or the viral rate is so down, there's no protection for that patient or for that person that's infected with the HIV or AIDS. So they will die more of those different opportunistic disease, sometimes even pneumonia, or even, like the yeast infection. Those are things that will end up killing them. So they don't necessarily die from the HIV itself, but due to other opportunistic infection or diseases will kill them because, like I said, their T helper cells have been basically destroyed or demolished. So they don't have, how me and you, if we get sick, our body, we have like these little soldiers, they're going up to march and fight those infections from coming or attacking into our system, but because their immune system have been depleted, they don't have those little soldiers to be fighting them, fighting those different infections. So they end up dying from those from those opportunistic infections.
Yeah, yes, sir.
And if I may come in and make a point, with treatment, people are saying, okay, people on the treatment regimen, for instance, they get to the point where you just can't even detect that they are HIV positive. Let me just put it that way, like explain it in a non-clinical way like that, right? So some people are on treatment where, they're following the treatment regimen, and they get to the point where you're not even, that they're not even, you can't even detect, the test can't even detect that they're HIV positive because they're following their treatment regimen. But it is also a very tricky one because I would say that's one thing that you have to be, if someone's HIV positive, you have to be open with whoever your partner is about your health status. Because it is something where, yes, you could be on a regimen, and then maybe you were not on a regimen for some other reason, and you end up truly infecting someone else and causing them to be HIV positive because you were playing this game of, I'm on my treatment, so I can spread the virus, right? The treatment only reduces the chance of shedding, or I should say not shedding, because not shedding, but sharing or transmitting the disease. It doesn't zero it out, right? So it's always good to be able to be open with who you're engaging with, for them to know your status. That is important. And it's equally important for us to protect our own health, right? That whoever we engage with as well, we want to be able, especially if you know your status and you're not HIV positive, right? You want to be sure that whoever you engage with, you also know their true status.
Wow. And that's a difficult one because to actually know the truth, it takes it's a great deal of persuasion. Is there where counseling comes in to in talking to that individual, the affected individual, to come up with the true story? Is that where it comes into? Who plays that part?
Yeah, counseling, that's all part of counseling, pre-counseling and post-counseling. So before someone, as was stated earlier, before someone's tested, they get the pre-counseling, and even after they're tested, they get that post-counseling and that education, right? So if they're negative, they still get the post-counseling because you want to address any risky behaviors that actually, and when I say risky behavior, it doesn't mean that you're out there just having a fine old time and really don't care. But a risky behavior could be a woman who's in an intimate partner violence situation, they're in a domestic violence type of, situation, for instance. So you want to address the risk, right? The risk factor, and try to help that person reduce their risk of try to help that person reduce the risk of contracting HIV if they're negative, if the test comes back negative. If the test comes back positive, it is equally so, right? You're trying to they have the pre-test counseling, and now the post-test counseling goes over all of that, including the possibility of them infecting others who they may truly be in love with as well.
Wow. I see that as one of the most important and critical part, looking in the face or in the eyes of someone, telling them, because by just having that pre and post counseling, that's already sent a message that there are two-way streets. You either be positive or negative, and the consequences that are involved, those are the kind of stuff you guys go through to tell the person. So, what other things do you guys take into consideration? So if a person appears today and that result to you, that result lands in your hand, and you are about to tell that person, so what's the first thing that comes to mind in terms of reaction from the person? What do you consider instantly that would be the person's reaction?
They, of course, they will be shocked and denial, and not even want to accept the results. And in doing that, like once, basically what will happen, we start gathering subjective and objective information of that patient through any type of assessment. And once that compiled and put together and the diagnosis have been made, then the referral is made to the health department or different other social services that that person may require. Because again, they will need a lifetime a lifetime drug treatment. And some of these patients can, or a person, they can't afford it because their medicine is like over 5,000 a month, or even just to get those medications. So again, social services and the health department will work together to make sure that that person is able to get their treatment or whatever necessary medical regimen that is required so they can have the best optimal life. So that's when then she will come in, or they will be making the arrangement or acting like a liaison person or coordinators between the client, the healthcare provider, and the health department, CDC, and all of those things. But then you also got to think too, if they gathering statistic data from whatever, if it's being done locally on a state level or even on a federal level, CDC will come into play. And also too, if it's done globally, you have the World Health Organization or those different joint commission people come in with gather data, so that way they can compare and contrast to see again what population is being affected at a higher rate, what method that has been um, presented out there to the public that they're utilizing to also help prevent the spread of those various diseases.
Wow, this is tough. Yeto, before you come in, I think this is where professionalism comes into play because here is the thing, and I want to a little bit backtrack. You may not know, but look, for example, we were going through the family reunions in Africa and coming. And after going through all of the formalities, they say, okay, this week or this date, you're gonna be getting your medical results. And you sometimes you will be in time before you get your result. Somebody who is negative before you even get back home, the information is out there.
Because there's no protocol, no set rules and regulations. So, but here,
Yeah.
working in a healthcare field, you can. I mean, not to say people don't share information, and those that have been done, you get reported to the state board that they can revoke your license depending on how much what you have damage you have caused to that individual. So it's within the United States, there's levels of protection for the patient, not just the healthcare provider, because the ultimate goal is to protect your patient while also providing proper care, but also letting whoever, especially with those reportable diseases, they need to be reported to the proper authorities again to make sure that treatment is being render to that person, and also to potential people that have might possibly come up with the transmission of those different illnesses or infectious diseases.
Yeah. Now, the professor
Yeah.
used a word said, you guys as a lesion. Let me bring into this, let me capitalize on this warrior lesion. When somebody is a HIV patient and you guys come in, okay, you will be fine. I am not fine. The person is not fine. So why you guys go to the extent of don't worry, everything will be okay?
No, we never. That's I would interject on that. We never tell a patient you'll be fine. You have to be realistic with your patient and provide them resources. But if you just give them, you give basically you giving them the fact. You're not falsifying information or giving them false reality based on, so no one tells the patient, oh, you'll be fine. I mean, when they're going through counseling, they would, do more therapeutic communication and therapeutic intervention with that patient, but not necessarily to say, oh, don't worry about it, you'll be fine. No.
Oh, okay,
Because
okay.
you have to be able to accept that patient reality or understanding or comprehension of what's happening to them. It's not happening to you, so you can tell the patient, "Oh, you'll be fine." That's not
No.
It's not professional at all. But if I may come in there as well, we are describing mostly, both of us work here, right? So we are describing to you mostly how the system works here. We do understand that from country to country, you will see disparity in terms of how we are addressing the HIV epidemic, right? So, but if I may say, from the perspective of this end, not everyone even gets to just, you just don't walk into the health department, any nurse see, any nurse counsel the person who's about to be tested for HIV. For instance, you have to, those are people who have received specific training on,
correct.
how to conduct the pre and post counseling. So people are not just thrown in a room because they're healthcare providers and then they run through a checklist and then test you and that's okay, you're fine, and then run through another checklist. No, it's more organized here, and yes, we do have disparities, but it's more organized here where the local health department will have someone or a group of people, a team of people, or a couple of the nurses, depending on which local health department, that person is trained specifically in HIV, right, or in like counseling of STI in general, right? So they do the pre-test, not pre-test, but pre-test counseling rather. They do that, and then the nurses take over and do the healthcare counseling, and they also do the post-test counseling and connect the person to resources if that person ends up being positive, for instance. And if their person is negative, they still do the post-test and educate the person on the risk and so forth. So it's not like they're going to come into the health department and say, oh, you'll be fine. No, they are going to address those risk factors, whether you are positive or negative. In the end, you will get the reality of what HIV is and how to prevent it or prevent yourself from contracting it.
So, and again, I would say, if just because if you have a medical doctor, not all medical doctor can go in and do operation, for example. So you have to have specialized or extra training or certificate to prove that you are competent in such field to be able to conduct such study or whatever. You can have and not just going back to say to your thing, when you ask the question in reference to can anybody just go in and educate yourself, as a healthcare provider or advanced provider, that's if I'm not qualified to do something, and it's different here. Like I said, if you want an extra qualification, you have to take those classes and even sometimes sit for a state board exam or get your certification in it. So for an ICU nurse like me, or even a ER nurse, if you want to get certified, you will go take the CCNE exam. So just because you have your nursing license doesn't necessarily mean that you have that specialty or advanced level to be participating in that. If you want that, it will be afforded to you, or you can pay for it and take those classes. And on top of taking those classes, you have to be able to show that you are proficient in that and take an exam to pass in order to get certain certification that you want to do. So like I said, not because you're a nurse, so that means you will go do you can be, or a medical doctor or podiatrist can go and take care of a patient that has cancer. If you want that, you need to go through the specialized or the protocol of being able to achieve those credentials
So
before you can participate in such
a doctor can
specialized field.
wow. Okay. Wow.
And then that is just also,
The same with
it's not that you
hospitals.
can just write it down. That is being tracked through the state, because every the state board, or the every each state has their own state board. So just because someone went to nursing school and they graduated doesn't mean that they're a nurse. You would take on that credential till you sit for your board and pass that exam. Then you can be identified as a whatever healthcare or allied health thing that you're working in.
So what is the difference with that in your own field, Yeto? How is
Yeah,
it?
so it's literally the same with public health. So, but instead, let's go back to our education. Everyone, people may go, and now you even have bachelors of public health programs or bachelors of what is it, community health program.
Yeah.
So people will go and get their degree in community health or public health, and then they may decide, okay, I'm going to get a degree in public health, and they get their degree in public health, and they do a 1 year program, and it's a general track of public health, and that's it for them because they want to focus on maybe nonprofit work or something else that is not specific. For us in epidemiology, for instance, I when I did my MPH, I made sure my emphasis was in epidemiology because that was my interest, and also it connected with my bachelor's. I have a bachelor in chemistry and a bachelor in statistics, so I was more interested in epidemiology because of the statistics part. So my emphasis was in epidemiology, and I happen to just as you're saying, you cannot, like right now we have coronavirus or COVID-19, right? I can guarantee you that you have the best in the field working on that. You have the epidemiologists epidemiologists in various localities leading their response team, or being a part of or co-leading with their health directors or however else it is, because it's a pandemic, so more than likely the health directors are leading, but you have the epidemiologists at the right you can, woman or man, next to that health director, trying to figure out all of this. And you can do that if you don't understand the specialty, right? You have to understand the specialty. You cannot walk out with an MPH and say, you know what, I'm an epidemiologist and I know how to investigate diseases. Even after my training, right? Even after my training as in my MPH with emphasis in epidemiology and with a statistics bachelor's, I still have to go through further training at the health department. So I started as an intern, the pandemic flu intern, and I worked along there with the state foodborne epidemiologists working on foodborne diseases, and I wanted to get my hands on understanding more of disease control and prevention, not just for foodborne diseases or waterborne diseases, but everything in general. So I applied. I worked at the state health. at that time, and I applied to the local health department just to get my hands more on the ground and learn because I knew I wanted to have a specialty in this particular field. So the Virginia Department of Health has an awesome training that they no matter who you are, you're going to go through their training program and go through their list of courses online, their professional development. You are going to go through all of that as well. So I went through all of that, served as a junior epi for a while, and then became an epidemiologist senior in having 4 counties under me. So you just don't get up and end up being a cardiologist overnight. This is something you
I
put the
wish,
time and the work in,
yet I wish the four
and
counties in
yeah.
Liberia will honor you. My goodness.
So even after like what she said, her training, even my training, you still on a yearly basis, you are required to recertify depending on the length of your certification. You have to recertify and take that exam and study and take that exam all over and pass it. If you don't pass it, you don't get your certification and you can't be specialized in that field. So there's more continuing education afterwards that way that you're looking at various research study out there within every field. There's some type of organization within the United States here, so which makes it a lot better than compared to other countries because you will get certified through that board. And like I said, you have to maintain your certification, and on top of that, you still have to take those various continuing educational classes required by your job to make sure that you're adequate and proficient in what you say you're doing. And you have to prove to them and keep your own file and records to show to them that you have all of those credentials and you're up to date with those credentials.
Wow.
Yes.
So it's not
And
just
with
something
that,
you can just take and say, okay, well, it's over with now. No, you constantly, there's the various, like I said, there's various magazines or organization that will put out public I can't even publication research studies, and those are things that you need to be keeping up to date and abreast of, so that way, especially for me, I work, yeah, I'm a nursing instructor at the college, but I also work in the ICU and the ER, so I have to be able to keep up with not just with what's required from the college or the university, but also from my practice. So
yeah.
it can be very difficult and tricky trying to keep
Mhm.
up with all your thing, and you are responsible for your own thing. At the end of the thing, if you get audited, because we can get audited, if you get audited, you don't have your credential, your license or can be suspended, revoked, whatever, depending whatever till you be able to. And it will give you a grace period or time to be able to finish up all your credential and your specialty that you need, but once that come, you can, like I said, they will pull your license and you can work. If you go work, then you're practicing as an imposter, and that can lead you to in deeper trouble than anything. So those are all counted for. It's not like, people who, like I said, you were here and I would pick on Liberia. Nobody, I'm not trying to be to do where people would leave from here working as a nursing assistant. There's nothing wrong with that because I started off as a dietary aide, worked as a nursing assistant, and got my thing. So those are all jobs that we should be proud of. But sometimes when you would see people would leave from here and because they work in the medical field and there's not that much, maybe not, I mean, nowadays due to social media and those other things and way of people tracking things, you can find out, but people would sometimes leave here and go back home and say they're doctors when they don't even have the qualification or having even have those college experiences and things. So again, it's easier to track stuff here than other countries.
Wow.
Yeah. And on the epidemiology side of things, we may not get licensed or get a certificate every, we don't have that process. But what we do have is, like you said, we have courses or, your job will have these professional development things you have to complete.
Correct.
I had to complete so many things on related to emergency preparedness and constantly update myself because as an epidemiologist, right? So I did not only, so my goal was not only to work on disease surveillance and outbreaks, right? My goal also was to prepare, in collaboration with the emergency planner, prepare our public, right? Prepare our districts, prepare, the population for disasters and how they will respond to it. Make sure our nursing homes, our schools, our assisted living facilities, our hospitals are all kind of prepared for disasters. So that's part of some of the work of an epidemiologist. So you can walk into. I had to go to. Uh, I had to sit in meetings with at hospitals with
Board
leaders
of
of hospitals,
directors.
right, for their infection control committee.
Yes.
You can walk in there not knowing what you need to talk, right? These people are, very capable. So you yourself, if you want to keep your job, you're gonna make sure that you stay on top of your
Exactly.
professional development. And in addition to the core professional development that is given for you to complete and keep up your skills, you have to be well read. You have to read about what's the latest study out there? What is it saying? What is it saying about HIV patients? What is it saying about populations? What is it saying? What are the studies out there? What is it saying about our climate? And how does that impact West Nile disease? And how does that impact someone traveling? And like if someone's traveling and there's a study on diarrhea illnesses, how does that impact you? So you have to keep up to date with a whole set of things. You have to be well read. You have to cover your job requirements as in professional development courses. You've got to keep up yearly, and they are tracked, as she was saying. And it's easily tracked here compared to maybe other places. They're online, so you go there, you finish the course, you take the post test, your grades are there. So if you're not passing it, they can tell like, okay, what's going on with you here, right?
Yeah.
So there are so many things.
Remediation.
Something is not right.
Remediation or termination. No, sir.
No,
Termination.
like in our Liberian context, no taking maker, right? My daughter was saying I couldn't study this week, and X, Y, Z, no spider web story.
They don't care about
Mm-mm.
that
No,
because
no,
we're in a professional basically dealing with people's lives. So you have to be abreast of information that's coming in from a research angle as well as statistical data that you have to be comparing with and different medical and nursing intervention or treatment that you need to be keeping up with so you can be able to when you're going in to diagnose a patient or provide treatment, it's the up to date and accurate and something that's going to be beneficial for that patient. You're not going to be looking at information that's outdated because again that's what research is all about, and it's more not just any research, especially evidence-based practice research that can is proven to be effective for whatever specific, if it's a HIV population that you're looking at to provide or render treatment from, you need to be have that full rounded information to be able to properly care for your patient and their overall health status.
Wow. It is not easy. It is, man. Wow. Well, ladies,
No, you have to stay on top of
Let's
it.
I wanted her or we can talk. Let's we have some statistics here
ye-
so people would know how this disease is really, I know the latest one now, everybody's running out there too, and that's causing a havoc on all of us, is the coronavirus. Again, with that too, that's when they come into, they'll start gathering those different statistics, and that's what you can see. If you look based on the coronation, you see, I mean, even though there's still improvement that needs to be done with the way each country or which each state from state to state is handling it. Again, this is something new, so we're learning as we go. But again, here they're in other countries, they're keeping data, so that way that's how we're sharing information is based on the epidemiology aspect of it. So that way we can be able to see, okay, so far I think the latest account for the COVID-19 has exceeded 200 and something thousand. So
Oh,
it's
wow.
just Huh? Yeah, worldwide. So it's just rapidly increasing. So that's what, we're gathering statistic to see again, how is this virus being spread? What we need to educate and teach the public to prevent the spread of the diseases so it doesn't continue to spread rampantly throughout the universe as it is. And it's more difficult if you have, as compared, not necessarily is more difficult, but as you have like a HIV infection, than something that is either droplet or airborne, because that is coming out, is that with the HIV, like I said, the transmission is like through bodily fluids and IV drug use. So it's not like it's, and I got to be very careful when I word this, not to say that it's out there, but as with a droplet or airborne or COVID-19 is primarily spread through droplet, not yet has been proven to be airborne. But again, like I said, research are changing on a day-to-day basis. So sometimes too, you can have the public can become very confused because you have one institution or one entity telling them something, and another one comes out, because there's constant research that's being done by these researchers that come out there to disseminate information. So at times it can be confusing, but overall, they have a much better coordination and way of trying to curb or prevent the diseases. There's flaws in the system. There's always flaws. Nothing is perfect. So as we go, we're learning those various things and that's what, again, keeping track of various statistical data will be important in case if this disease were to come back again, or something similar, will have the statistical data, the researchers out there, and the information out there to be able to provide a better health teaching or education to the public at large. I can't even articulate, Jesus.
No, and I guess we've discussed about HIV, and we're discussing about our field a little bit and how that even relate to the current situation of COVID-19 or coronavirus, as everyone's saying. So if I could just, I don't know if we're transitioning into COVID-19 now, but
I
if
think
I could,
basically
but
it's all
Well,
already
I mean,
answered.
we
But
we can. I wanted to.
because I know she wanted to add that to the end of the discussion.
And I wanted to give, for us to give some data on a statistic with the HIV, either globally or within the United States, because I mean,
yeah,
that's where,
let's do that, and then we can make the covert 1920 whatever to be the last, because that's the happiest one. It is 19 for now.
Exactly.
We don't want to see 20
So,
coming. 19 is causing a lot of devastation. So let's go into some of the statistics right now for the benefit of the audience. What's the most current one? What can you guys have that, Professor?
within the United States, and she and I were talking about it earlier, I think primarily the Northeast and the South region they have a higher rate of the HIV/AIDS statistical data that you would see. And again, women also have it. And I know a lot of times people will be like, "Oh, when AIDS first came out, well, I think the very first case, if I'm not mistaken, was a 16-year-old in 1969, according to the research that was confirmed or diagnosed with AIDS, or who died with AIDS. But then they become more popular when in the 80s, where there was different controversial theory about someone African or someone sleeping with a monkey, and that's how it was transmitted, and all of that. But there's more based on that. There's been more research and more education. So there's the lack of with people not having the information, with fear, anxiety, the ignorance has somewhat subsided. But again, that's depending on a regional basis, or even area specific, because even within the United States, there's still there's still different prejudice or stigma that a patient may feel that's been diagnosed with such diseases or such illness. And even in Africa, sometimes they basically will isolate those patients or ostracize them, because again, from the lack of fear, not knowing how it's transmitted, or even inaccuracy in information.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Ito, you wanna come in?
Yeah, and I know we have some numbers to give, but yes, and that lack of information we're experiencing it now, even with this pandemic, right? We have a lot of misinformation out there. So most of what HIV was or newly was what we call an increase in HIV infection, and people started to learn of this new virus, right? There was still a lot of misinformation out there as well. And some of that misinformation was, misinformation always contributes
Hiding
to
fear.
yeah, could contribute to people being fearful and not seeking maybe not seeking treatment if they have to because they're afraid to be ostracized or not even wanting to be tested because you know what if they're going to be tested it's a death sentence and they rather not know their status, right? So the misinformation, and we normally say this in public health, whenever you're dealing with an epidemic or a pandemic, you have to be careful because you will have the pandemic or the epidemic and there's a leader in public health who normally quotes this. His name is Dr. Justice Benjamin. Dr. Justice Benjamin, he always say like you deal with the pandemic or epidemic or outbreak or whatever it is, and you also going to deal with the misinformation epidemic as well. So when HIV came out, there was a lot of misinformation out there, even to how it spread and and so forth. Now we tend to see right now within the Black slash African American here in the U.S. and Hispanic, we carry the disease burden, if you would say that.
I'm telling you, yep.
Yeah, you see a greater number of Black slash African American and Hispanic are up on the charts when it comes to new infection and also just the infection number overall, right? So
And as in chronic health illnesses as well, the
yeah,
diabetes, the hypertension, it's just we are just on a down luck of majority of those chronic disease processes.
processes, and there's so many things coming into play there, and that's why
Right.
epidemiology is that I think I don't think we have the answers to all the world's problems, but we truly contribute a lot because we're able to see, for instance, why this particular race is at a greater risk. What's going on here? What is lacking here that is placing this race at a greater risk of getting the infection. And I'm just gonna use this. I don't know. This has come to because I was reading it earlier and I promoted it on my page earlier, and I didn't mean to put it in your show. But that's a
Oh,
book and it's
yeah.
called
I think that's
yeah.
Go,
that's
mom.
good.
Called,
That's good.
This is promotion, prevention, everything is included.
yeah, full disclaimer, I didn't write it. I mainly worked with who wrote it, but I didn't write it. But there's an interesting book. It's called Racism, Science and Tools for the Public Health Professional. I was telling someone every medical person needs to kind of read this book, right? Because it talks about structural racism and how that comes into play with us seeing the disparities or the inequalities when it comes to these diseases, right? Us seeing a higher rate of blacks and Hispanics, black slash African Americans or Hispanics being diagnosed with HIV, for instance. So there are so many things, so many factors who come into play. Social economic standing who come into play. Just the lack of information, the lack of education on risk factors who come into play. Education who come into play. There are so many things that actually contribute. Even the neighborhood, there's this big study, or I should say, there's this known peer-reviewed knowledge out there that where you live actually affects your health, right? And it's
Right.
not talking about environment in terms of, yes, sometimes, environmental factors play too, but it's not even talking about only the environmental aspect, I think pollution or so forth, but they're talking about within your given zip code, for instance, in the U.S., your given zip code could place you at certain disadvantages that could actually place your health, place you in a place to have greater risk to have some of these diseases. So those are all some of the things public health work, the public health work entails. I've worked field epidemiology for years, and I was epidemiologist senior, and I enjoyed it and I love it, but I wanted to kind of get on more. Okay, why are we seeing this? Right? Why are we seeing these disparities? Why are we seeing the inequality or so forth? So in my field right now, I've made that transition in a way where it allows me to work on increasing the capacity on sexual violence, for instance, or something along those lines, because we need to see these numbers go down, where I can probably have a voice on structural racism, because that actually race, we say this thing, this book is actually making a statement that race is not what we should be looking at, but rather racism, right? The structural racism or institutional racism actually places different races at a greater risk of contracting some of these diseases.
Correct.
So
And last week, when Angie, another guest of mine, was on here, we kind of touched on that a little bit, where she talked about there was a study, and I actually read that study that she had talked about, where if a black female that have her PhD or a higher level of education, she is treated as far as in a healthcare setting than a black PhD holder or on a higher level is treated the same as a Caucasian with a 12th grade education. And also too, if a woman is pregnant, you have those structural or racism that will come up in the way that she will get um, prenatal treatment and care that will be provided. So all of those comes into factors. Those are things that, I know when sometimes when we talk about racism or racial inequalities, people tend to be like, oh, everything, you're throwing up the race card or this and that. It's not necessarily so when it comes to this, but does it happen? Yes. And again, with the lack of education, and sometimes too, you have people thinking that, okay, this can happen to me. And they have that invisibility or immortal, where they feel like teenagers that they're immortal, nothing can happen to them. So they go out there and put themselves at risk and also putting other people at risk. So a lot of times education is like, that's why I can never overemphasize the amount of health teaching and health education that needs to be rendered to society as a whole, not just the African American and Hispanics, but also the Caucasian and those other race things. Because again, the more we educate and teach those different population, age group, ethnicity, religious creed, it will also lessen those increase in prevalence in with those various diseases. But there needs to be more work done within the Hispanic, African, and African American community, because over and over as time has gone by with different evidence-based practice and research that we see out there, no matter, we just keep claiming at a higher rate. We're very at a disadvantage, and that's when that disparity comes in. And it also can play in a factor too, depending on, as she stated, on your location. If you, even within the United States, if you have people in a rural setting than in a city, there can be also within that disparity within healthcare access and all those availability that I would keep. I would say the three states in available, and also so that's when you have those different making those different Oh Lord, different referrals and having all those different resources out there for the patient, so that way they can have access to all of those necessary or require health entity that they need to be able to take care of their health.
And before we could go back to you, I just want to bring this back to where we are from, right? So we're talking about the U.S. and talking about disparities and structural racism in the U.S. But that also, if you take our country, for instance, Liberia or other developing countries, the you know, you're looking at all those same things playing, maybe in another aspect. So you look at what promotes some of the risky behaviors that will put some of 15-year-old at a greater risk of getting HIV, right? You're looking at the social economic status. You're looking at the access to education. Now, if a 14, 15-year-old child wants to go to school and there's no means for her to go to school, and she ends up ends up in a abusive relationship in order to go to school, or ends up selling, ends up being involved in prostitution to go to school, that also increases her risk or his risk, because it could go both ways, of being HIV positive. So yes, on the U.S. level, we're looking at the structural racism and access to education and access to, like inner city versus rural. But it still comes into play even in Liberia. We still have those dynamics, but just maybe some of it in the same way and some of it in other ways, right? So you still have, whether we want to admit it or not, we probably have some ethnic, issues going on. We definitely have educational issue going on, access to education for our youth, for our adolescents. So we are not seeing our young folks being diagnosed with HIV early because someone is prostituting because they don't have, or they don't, they cannot afford education. For instance, I'm just using that as an example. Or you may say that that their lack of knowledge. There's not a lot of education on the disease at a younger age, so they may not have information about HIV. Period. People say, oh, they're talking about HIV on the radio. Well, you're announcing about HIV on the radio. A 14-year-old may not digest it as you are announcing it. So we have to look at programs where we are reaching our youth at a younger age to let them know what is HIV. Grassrooting. We have to be able to educate them in all levels so they are empowered, because I feel that they are at disadvantage compared to other people or other youth their ages in different parts of the world when it comes to information or that they receive, right? So we have to look at all of the things playing in place, and when some of us are talking about, no matter what political party it is, no matter who's the president, I'm about the people. So if I see something that I think affects the health of the population, I'm going to scream at it, right? So we have to realize we have those same dynamics and in other developing countries, including our own Liberia, and we need to address them as well.
Exactly, and sometimes you can have abuse of those ones in higher power that will not necessarily, be able to do things that they need to do. Not to say it doesn't happen here, I'm sure it does, but there's more protocols and things that you need to follow. But over there, because people just think they can, because of their power, they abuse the power and neglect that sometimes those are the same people that got you where you are. So, and again, whenever you're providing health teaching or health education, you have to think about your audience knowledge of comprehension and how you're able to best disseminate that information to them. So the way that I will teach per se, my and it's different too, and I had to adjust my way of teaching as well, and there's still room of improvement. I'm always looking for ways to improve myself as I'm providing teaching, whether it's in a classroom setting with my nursing students or it's at with my practice. So you have to be able to adjust and teach your audience at their level, because like I said, a lot of times research has shown that the average person reading or comprehension level is at on a sixth or eighth grade level. So when I come over here, or when she comes here and all she using those different epidemiology terminology or jargon, it makes it difficult. And you cannot, when you, especially when you're trying to teach and educate your client or their family member, you cannot teach over their head, because they won't be able to comprehend and then also digest the information. So it just makes that time wasteful. So if you're teaching, it needs to be meaningful, and is there something that your patient or their family member will learn from? And also when they learn from that, because they're going to be going home in their home setting or out discharged to the outpatient unit, so all this health teaching and education that was given, are they going to take that and utilize that in a more effective way, instead of them to be coming back using the healthcare setting or the field as a revolving door, because again, they have not properly digest or understood what was given to them in those
Okay.
various health teaching.
All right, we're going to be transitioning, and that just comes to the ability to communicate. Even in communications, they always get, like in public speaking, they always said know your audience. You can't go talk to my old people in the village there and start throwing these stuff there. You're gonna cause more harm than even good. And that's exactly why we're having professional people here to discuss some of these issues here. Before we transition to Yeto, let me just ask you this question here. I monitor news 24/7, and I want you to take it from the public health perspective. What is the basic concept? And the reason I'm asking this question here, when you listen to what are the mainstream news or whatever news outlet, they kind of like make people pressure your cholesterol to rise. But people from the public health side, their basic message there is to restore hope to people. That's a difficult task, because you talk to me, Nestle, things is being, people, professionals are working 24/7 to make sure, maybe to get the vaccine going, to get things going. And then when you turn on your television set, cable news wire, you see a lot of things coming out to the extent that you want to pass out. How difficult it is to channel through those sort of process as a health, a public health person.
Okay. So, and you are speaking specifically to the pandemic, right? The
Yes.
COVID-19 pandemic.
Yes.
It is very difficult. Um, one of the things, but we have to share for it. But one of the things I said in any pandemic or any situation, it happened with the, when HIV came on the scene, and now we are seeing that with COVID. People are nervous. They don't understand the information. You also have a lot of misinformation. And now we have social media, so it's even worse, right? We have all the digital things, WhatsApp, you have the Twitter, the Facebook, the Instagram, the WhatsApp. You have everything. I would say the same message, I can receive it probably 7 ways. Right? I can receive it on Facebook, on my page. I can receive it in my inbox. I can be texted. By text. It can come from my WhatsApp and whatever else you have downloaded. So with that, it makes it even more, and then obviously easy, but it makes it even more difficult to promote or to say to address the misinformation epidemic, right? So you're addressing the COVID pandemic, but with all the other moving factors, it makes it even more difficult to address the misinformation out there. But that's why your show, for an example, is important. That's why we need to have credible people. And I will say I will give the news that yes, the news reporting on number of cases, they're reporting, and also the news going to report, what is happening. So they're reporting more the severe cases instead of, they're saying a lot of mild cases. So the news may be reporting that, but the news is also having experts to come on and provide expert knowledge on the disease as a So they're trying to balance that, what news people normally go with, and then the facts. So I tell people that it is difficult to manage that, but what I encourage everyone to do is go to the source, go to those credible sources. For the U.S., for instance, and even if you're out of the U.S., it's online, so you can see it. Go to CDC.gov, right? And I'm talking once again about the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. So go to CDC.gov, go to WHO.int, right? So that's the World Health Organization. You can also go to the American Public Health Association, so it's apha.org.
The
And,
NIH is another
and
good
yeah,
one.
those are
Mhm.
credible sources for you to be able to gather the facts you need. And you need the facts to be able to protect your family. You don't want to be. Yesterday I went over some myths on my Facebook page, and one of the myths, WHO has a mythbuster page, and some of the things. So they try to address it by listing all the myths, right, for COVID-19, and then let you know that it's a fact, or like this is not a fact. And one of these things was like people, I guess, were saying if you take a really long hot bath in a very steaming hot tub,
Sauna.
that yeah, like
Most
fast,
boiling
like
their
soak
skin to
yourself
be
in the
stopped by the
water.
water.
That if you keep doing that, you will prevent the disease. And so WHO was saying like, hey, stop right there, don't do it. That's not going to happen. You're more than likely going to suffer from a burn than prevent COVID-19.
Yeah.
So it's this dynamic of providing, constantly seeking avenues to provide the public with the accurate information, whether it's social media, LinkedIn. For instance, my former employer, Virginia's Department of Health, they've been doing a great job on LinkedIn, for instance. They've been promoting their fact sheets and everything on LinkedIn as well. Or, so health departments have social media pages. Social media pages where they're trying to post that information and encouraging the public. I know in Maryland, for instance, I know in Maryland there was a call from, I guess it was one of the counties actually had a call where they did a reverse call, and that happens too. That's one of the tools we use, in the health department where they do a reverse call to make an announcement to the public. So they did a reverse call to give some facts about this. And these are all things that are on the table even before a pandemic. We look at all of that. We know that if there were to be a pandemic, we are going to have to deal with the misinformation as well. So these are all things, are all tools that we tested and we have on the table. Even I was telling my sister's watching, so I was telling my family, even if they were to increase testing and the locality wants to use designated places for people to drive through and do testing, those are places that were already they already, that's it. We already identified those places way in advance. And yearly, in public health, the health department would do a mass, they actually run we actually run a tabletop exercise to say if something like this was to happen, how would we address it? And you run that exercise, and it might be a mass dispensing, how do you dispense medication if something was to happen on a massive scale or whatever. But you run that exercise in order for you to see what's the gap, and in order for you to tweak it and adjust it. So the system, as much as there are flaws, and as much as things are chaotic, the system still exists here, and with good hope, that I think that's where the hopes come from, or the promotion of hope is coming from. That look, right now things may be chaotic, but we know what works, and if we keep enforcing what works, we'll be able to get from the red and get back to life in general. Just one last thing is a social distancing that is being talked about. It's a new term probably for some people, but it's not a new term for us in public health. we can see all the way back to 1918 when there was an influenza epidemic. Those were things that were implemented to help reverse that or to help control that, I should say. I did a live video actually comparing. There was St. Louis and Philadelphia, and St. Louis actually put those measures in place earlier, and you saw that they had a lesser impact versus Philadelphia, and I'm talking about 1918, not talking about now, versus Philadelphia, who saw a greater impact in 1918. So we have some historical knowledge of how to control a pandemic, and as much as it is chaotic and it's probably going to be for a little bit, because guess what? We are still climbing that curve, right? We're still discovering new cases. We're still testing. They have increased testing. So well, guess what? When you increase testing, you're going to see new cases. So it's probably to be chaotic for a little bit, but it is going to come down once those measures are put in place, and that's where the hope comes from.
It shouldn't be a surprise. These numbers will continue to go over the roof and then in a long while before it can decrease. A good you mentioned about the hot water. I called my folks today, my old people, and they said somebody called from the U.S. They said, well, we need to be drinking hot water. And my old lady been drinking hot water all day. I'm like, who's the doctor? Who is the doctor? I said, oh no, they say hot water that kill it. I said, oh my goodness. Well,
no, I mean there's some truth to that, but I think what she was talking about bathing, what you do with the sauna, is that
they actually say soak yourself in hot water.
Yeah.
And even most of those things, public health, from a public health perspective, we are promoting, yes, you want to, from the medical perspective, you definitely want to boost your immune system, right? That you have your professional right here. She can back me up or let me know if I'm wrong. But you definitely want to boost your immune system, and that's something actually we should be working on a daily basis. We should be trying to keep our bodies functioning in a way, whether it's how you eat, how you work out, making sure you have your vitamins and so forth. And so that is boosting your immune is something that medical professionals are saying. From the public health perspective, we are basically focusing on how you reduce the spread, right? So we are focusing on okay, what can actually break that chain of infection, right? What can actually help us lower that curve? So we are focusing on how is it spread? How can person A give the disease to person B and person C, right? And how do we break that chain where person A does not give the disease to person B and C, right? So that's what we are focusing on, because that's what's going to actually bring that curve that you've seen on the TV and everything else. That's what's going to bring that curve down, right? That's what's going to control the outbreak. So once again, how we are doing. We, from the public health perspective, we are educating on how the disease is spread. What the disease is, yes, but how it's spread. It is spread by droplets, sneezing, coughing, coming into contact with someone who's sick and coming into contact with their secretions, their whether they sneeze or the cough, coming in contact with that, and for instance, you yourself, whether it's going directly in your face or you not washing your hands and touching your eyes, your nose, or or eating, so forth. So our thing is to prevent that spread. So we're educating people on how you can stop the, how you can prevent yourself from getting the disease. Mind you, we don't have a vaccine and we don't have an antiviral treatment. So the best thing we have are those measures that we can kind of those measures we can put in place to protect, for someone to protect themselves.
Now, I have the right people here quickly. Let me get a record straight here, because we've been hearing these sort of sound bites. Folks are saying it's airborne. I haven't heard that from my CDC. I'm not talking about CDC again in Liberia. I'm talking about the Center for Disease Control here, and I was listening to one of our government officials, and I don't know what that information came from. This is an airborne disease. This is an airborne disease.
So droplet and airborne is different ways. It's how the spread of it or your surrounding and how it's spread in the environment. So those are two different things. So the airborne disease, for example, is what we will call tuberculosis. So for if a patient is diagnosed with tuberculosis, they will be put on an airborne as compared to someone who has, let's say, whooping cough or something. Then you put them on a drop. Those, like I said, it's different things of isolation that we put patient on. So for example, patient that have who immune system is down due to them having cancer or going through chemotherapy, they will be placed on more of what we call neutropenic precaution. So there's just different, there's regular standard precaution, which you should treat every patient as they have, put them on standard precaution, making sure that those, again, that bodily fluids and stuff does not get in contact with yours, because if you taking care of a patient, if you have a cut on your hand, you may not see it, may not be visible, but you can have open areas that can be microscopical. And if you go take care of a patient, you don't properly glove or do something that can cause, again, as she was saying, and I had stated earlier through previous shows or topic discussion that we did, the basic thing of these infectious diseases is making sure that we are breaking that 6 links of chain of infection. Once you break that, that will slow down or stop the process of the spreading of those diseases on a rapid or more intense basis.
Okay.
Yeah. And if I could come in there too and add, she perfectly described it. I think the confusion came out because there was an article out there that said that this virus could be aerosolized, right? And people just, or there was another thing that said that, someone cough in the air. But the first,
I know, right? Again, people usually won't cough no more because everybody's looking
We're scared. We are so
but,
afraid to
I
cough.
think people took that from there and said that it is airborne. That's not what, that's a medical term they used in an article that I think people ran with. So when they were talking about it being aerosolized, they were talking about sometimes if a patient is in a medical setting, for instance, and they do a particular procedure, sometimes the virus can end up being, the procedure can make the virus aerosol, make the virus be in the air or airborne because of the procedure that was done. That's what they were talking about. They weren't talking about the virus per se in the general public just, being airborne. COVID-19 has not been proven to be airborne. Coronavirus disease or coronavirus, the family, has been known to be spread by droplets, right? And so that's what we are saying, okay, this is not airborne. I think what people also have a little confusion there. They're saying, okay, so if I cough in the air and someone get it, is it not airborne? And she gave a good example of TB, for instance. That's airborne. Measles, that's another airborne. Like, for instance, if someone's in a room here with measles, it's possible for that to stay in the air for 2 to 3 hours later. Now, COVID-19, when it stays in the air, it drops off, right? Even if someone coughs, it's not going to be airborne for like 2 to 3 hours later. And thank God that is not going to be, because I think we will see way more. This will be a whole nother level of investigation if it were airborne. So for now, and all that we have seen and gathered, this virus is still droplets, spread by droplets, and it is not airborne.
Okay, well, ladies.
If it was airborne, a lot of those people would be in a negative pressure room, because you have to put patients that have airborne diseases such as the measles and the tuberculosis. They need to be in a negative pressure room. So, the hospitals are already inundated. They will be. I mean, it'll be a chaotic situation that we're even facing right now.
All right. Well, I time check here in the East Coast is what 11:48 Eastern.
It's 10:48 to me.
10:48.
1 hour behind.
1 and I'm quite sure Eto and I we are on the same time slot, 11:48. Okay, but
Yeah.
before we leave, I know we all Liberians, and part of this outreach, this is something we had in mind, but it is also meant to sort of create an awareness to help national government. Like this is like you rightfully said, this is not about for this party and for this. We are talking about the survival of the nations and citizen children's the vulnerable. Um, Following the little here, if you were to speak, let me take it from you to first. If you were to speak directly to the public health people, I hope I should be having tomorrow the chief medical officer of the Republic of Liberia on this network at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Let's pretend here he's awake this morning hour and listening. From your expertise, what
If
will
you got that
you?
much weight.
Yeah.
So,
I know, right?
What were you? Oh yeah, those people. Listen, they don't go to bed. What will you be
No.
advising? What will you be advising to public health authority now in Liberia, just based on the general concept, your expertise, and see what is happening? What will you tell them?
Okay. Well, first and foremost, I would say thank you, right? As
mhm.
a public health colleague, I would say thanks for the work that they are doing. I know trying to prevent a particular disease from coming to your shores is a daunting task, right? So, and given certain behaviors and other circumstances and our infrastructure and all of those things,
Lack of
it
everything
lack
basically
of
that they have to deal
basically
with.
everything they have to do to deal with this. I would say thank you.
They
Thank
have
you
it
first and
harder. That's
foremost.
true.
They have it way more harder than we have it here. So that would be the first thing I would say. And what would I tell them? I'm smiling because although I'm here, one of the things I try to do, if we have anything in Liberia going on, whether it was this or even during the time of Ebola, I try to reach out to public health colleagues who I know work on disease investigation. And I have a good friend there who's Mr. Thomas Nande, and we happen to be in a SN of pandemic training together as well. That another Liberia was very instrumental in getting all of us there as well, and Faith Cooper. But so we kept, we kind of kept the chain of information with all those public health people we met during that time. And I normally reach back out to the public health colleagues I've created in Liberia, and I normally ask them like, hey, what's up? What are your protocols like? What are you doing? So I did that already from the
Oh,
beginning,
you're way ahead of
just
the game.
saying. So in a way, I've set my piece already from the beginning. Like, okay, what is your protocol? And they told me that they do have these quarantine site POCs and all of the measures, and I gave my recommendation to them already in terms of, okay, I understand all of that, but I'm looking at how can someone slip through, right? I think you all should look at how can someone slip through. Are they going to slip through the borders? How are they going to slip through? And now we are actually seeing it, how they're slipping through. We've seen leaders actually slipping through because they avoided quarantine. And people want to say, oh no, I was quarantined. No, you were not quarantined. There's a difference between quarantine and isolation. Quarantine is you're well, right? And you are separated for a period of time in order for us for you to be observed to see if you will come down with the disease. That's quarantine. And isolation is if you're sick and you're separated from the well in order to prevent them from getting the disease from you, and then they treat you. That's the difference between quarantine and isolation there. So if you did not quarantine yourself at home and you were out and about, or you slipped through, there's a health protocol at the airport, and it's whatever is happening with the immigration and the health folks there, and people are slipping through, and then we now going because of these lapses. I will say to our health officials that we need to really tighten that up. We really need to be able to gather around the table with our immigration officers and everybody else and say, look, we probably already got this, but we need to make sure if the airports are going to keep open, if the borders are going to keep open, period, we need to make sure that we are not having people slip through because our system cannot afford to have that right now. I mean, how many ventilators do we
Do
have
we
at
have
home?
ventilators?
Well, like let's be real, right? So we cannot afford for this disease to infiltrate our community. So that's it. So I would say really look at the gap where people are slipping through and try to tighten it up. I would more so also speak not only to our medical officer but to my fellow Liberians. This is a serious issue. This is something that is not this is not Ebola was that, but this is not Ebola, right? This is something that you don't have the capability to, your health system doesn't have the capability to treat on a massive basis effectively right now. So we have to take these public health measures seriously. If the medical officer comes on and say social distancing and this is that, okay, kids stay home. That doesn't mean that your kid is going to stay home and be running around the neighborhood with 50 other kids, everybody in close proximity. We have to observe the recommendations coming out of public health because this is the way that we are going to protect our community. And some of us, we're here in the U.S., but our hearts are with you back there. And we think about you all on a daily basis, sometimes to our own detriment in a way. We kind of drive ourselves into, I was up really late last night, and I was telling you I was a little tired today because I was up reading and doing some other things, but to be honest, I was also up talking with a public health colleague in Liberia, like giving, bouncing back and forth from things that I think, some ideas. So please take the public health measures seriously because it is going to take you as a Liberian and your health ministry and National Public Health Institute of Liberia to be able to combat this.
That is so true. And then also too, not just the audience or the public, those officials too, they need to lead. They need to lead and set by example because you can't be enforcing things, but then you're not following the rules and regulation or following protocol. You think because you're a big shot or whatever, you're a big boss lady and you're not following what the see. It's like monkey see, monkey do. If you're not following, you're trying to implement rules and regulations, but you're not following because you think you're above them. How do you expect a common person to do the same? You have to lead by example and set by those examples, and then they will be able to follow you and make sure that no matter what, whether if it's a family ship, relationship, rules needs to be enforced. Even right now at the college where I teach, it's basically I had to revamp and redo all my health teaching, all my health, my content material because the college as of yesterday or 2 weeks ago, basically we can't even go to our office no more. So I had to go there, gather all my necessary material that I need to be working from home. Then I have to work again in the practice in the health field. So it's like having to do everything on two different levels. And that's okay because that's part of what I put myself in this profession as a nursing educator or nursing professor, but then also working in the practice in the ICU and ER. So it's like trying to balance. Yes, I may not be able to go to work at the college because now we're doing everything online or hybrid teaching. So I have to revamp all my course content material and in order to be able to present the content to those students who are no longer will be in a classroom setting, will be more on a virtual online learning or university. That's what I'm doing. So when I'm teaching, I'm recording as a live recording and my students log in and that's how we're engaging. It's a little bit different because there's confusion with everything's going on. So some of them, they're panicking. So you have to be there to encourage them, but also I have to lead as an example as well. Then when I go in my practice, okay, it's like, and they even sent a letter to us that we have to take and keep on our phone that was essential. So if I'm traveling or driving my car to go to work to the hospital, if anybody pull me over, I can show to them that I'm an essential worker, that I'm allowed to go places. So it's just like I said, this whole disease or infectious COVID-19 has basically wreaked havoc on everything. So it's, again, we need to be not just need to lead by example and do things as far as health education and awareness to the public, so that way, especially in countries like Liberia, where not necessarily they may not take, because with any disease process, and they may not take it serious, but we like to joke and play around a lot. So implementing those changes and making sure that we're sticking to them and enforcing those changes will make a difference as well.
And if I may, I'm so sorry, I know we have to go, but if you said something that I really want to come in with the leaders. So take a typical situation. We all have traveled home, so you understand. Or we all have lived home as well, so you understand, right? So take a typical situation. You're at the airport and people are coming through the lines, and you have a leader, who's a mental leader and so forth, and they come and for some reason, whether they are channel or different route, but you see that they're from the same country you're coming from, and they kind of bypass quarantine, right? You see that happen. Yeah. So, let's put it in the Liberian way. You see that you go like, my man, like, that the boss man, let the boss man.
Let him man talk, man. Let him man go. You stupid. You'll fire you up.
So you're saying that like the boss, or they're saying like, oh, boss, you're coming from Italy or you're coming from Switzerland, so you have to be. You have to be quarantined. Don't you know who I am? You stupid, and you know what? And you know what stuff like that. You want
to run that man.
We'll
fire you up.
You have no respect. You want to keep your job. So it could play both ways, and then that person is like, you know what? Hey, bye, right? Now, when that happens, guess what happens after? The person behind him comes up after. I said, but you know what, brother? You just let the person pass. Are you saying let me pass? And then when the immigration officer going to say, no, you can't pass. Let me get you small things so I can pass. What do you think is going to happen? When leaders are escaping the system, it opens the opportunity for corruption to happen there at the airport and other people to also escape the system. So we truly have to lead, for example. And this, my sister normally says this, and I'm going to actually say this for her and quote her, Catherine McIntosh. Catherine Hunter McIntosh. She normally says this, during Ebola, it was Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Guinea. So the world could rally help around us. This time around,
everybody's suffering
everywhere, and everybody's trying to rally help around for their own nation, right? So we can't even rely on the amount of help that we receive that, right? We can't even just rely on it. So we have to take those public health measures seriously to prevent the spread that we will see if we don't take them, if we don't take them seriously.
Wow. Oh, well. I think hands to our wives is quite sufficient. By the way, it's not a mistake bringing you guys here. We hope to do this routinely. And Professor, I thank you so much for always going out there to tap into the expertise of our own in the sense of Liberia. Now, this is I just don't understand how people want Liberia in the diaspora. How are you saying here? You have already reaching out to your colleagues, but yet them still, our folks, they don't get it because maybe you're not there physically. But I think what you are doing is extraordinary. You just didn't sit down. You also have your country heart. I want to thank you guys so much. Is there any closing remark? Everybody just all said. Any closing remark or final?
I always got a closing remark. The thing I would say is, with especially in this time of this disease, unprecedented disease process or infectious disease that's going around, again, we all need to work together, lead as example. When you're taking care of your patient, you need to, or with the public at large, with this droplet disease process, infectious disease process, you not necessarily just protecting that patient, also protecting yourself and everyone else in your surrounding to prevent that spread of the disease, and taking those preventative measures that we need to take, as far as hand washing, which is the number one most effective way of, again, breaking that six links of that chain infection to prevent that spread of disease and minimize the rapid amount of cases that it seems to be continually growing. Not just cases, but you have so many death rates that's hiking up there. In order for us to see a decrease in that, we need to be actively taking part in those preventative measures set forth, and not going out there and doing things to jeopardize ourselves or the public at large.
All right. Yes, sir.
Thanks everyone for listening. Thanks. Yeah, too.
All right.
I,
Okay.
I want to say thanks to you all for having, excuse me, and thanks for having me
Don't
on.
cough too much, yo. No, sir.
I know I just drank water and it's gone the wrong way,
I'm
but
teasing you.
but I want to say thanks for having me on, and I really do appreciate Joelle always reaching out, right? She's always the one coming out like, hey, you need to come on this and do this, and I appreciate you for just just the drive you have, right? So publicly acknowledging her for her drive in her career and the heart for people in general. And I just want to thank you too for
Thank
allowing
you.
me to come.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, excuse me, for allowing me to come on the show as well and offer my 1 or 2 cents somehow here.
This
And I
is
hope
million
hope
cent
it
that you have offered. Not even million cent.
it was my 1 or 2 cents in my mind, and hopefully that it was beneficial to everyone. And I just also want to thank the listeners, right, for staying
Correct.
tuned, with, and listening. And we hope you pass on the knowledge to someone else as well. And I'm glad I'm glad this platform exists for us to be able to share
Dialogue.
information, educate, yes. And just to also add, even when I reach back home, I always to my public health colleagues, I am always embraced, and that is something I think it makes it easier for me to pick up the phone and offer my knowledge because I'm always embraced. So I want to say thanks to them too because I'm here, they're there, they're work. They could say, hey, what, we don't need to hear from you, but she's over there. What does she know of her home? But they understand the passion within the heart, and they're open to hearing my suggestions somehow as well. So thank you so much. This is a great platform, and this great work you're doing. And I just want to say thanks very much for what both of you are doing. This is good. We need more of this in our community.
All right. Well, folks, that does it this evening. It's 12:07 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm Alfonso Z, and so I want to say a big thank you to my two distinguished young ladies, progressive, talented, knowledgeable of their various expertise. I don't understand why people are saying Liberian are not making meaningful effort. But we have a lot here. It's just a matter of getting out of our comfort zone to go out there to find where the expertise is, tap into it, and allow it to flow in the community. Ladies, I want to thank you. Please, Madam McIntosh, I hope this is not your last time here. Do you have my email? If there's any information, we always have our regular programs, and we also take time with the limited common sense approach. We try to share those information with our listening audience. We all into it. I want to thank you guys so much for your time this evening, and I'm looking forward in not too far future to get you back here as we continuously dive into the and get the expertise from all of you guys.
Yeah,
Professor
thank you,
Joel, thank you
Yeto.
so much. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
All
And
right.
continue to network back home with people. I also do it too, because networking and sharing those valuable information is very important within the health field because at the end of the day, we're working for everyone in order to protect us on a more local level as well as on a global level. So reaching out to the folks back home, your friends or your colleagues, y'all may be separated by distance, but also sharing those vital information can be critical to saving a life. So that's very important.
All right. Well, folks,
All
guys,
right.
thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank
Bye,
you. Have a
everyone.
good night.
All right.
Bye.
All right, folks. Every good thing must come to an end. I want to thank those two young ladies, professional ladies involved in multitudes of roles, giving back in an extraordinary way to their country, to their communities, and to the people. This is what we should be doing. So many challenges I face in the country. And to put it into context, it's not like in the case of Ebola. The entire globe is engulfed with this epidemic, and America is having crying your own cry. Italy, Germany, and France, all of those places are locked down. So who do you think they're really going to listen to you? It has to be all of us, and making sure that let me make sure here this volume is up here. I hope I'm well audible to make sure that all of us are involved into this national cause. This is something that we must do and that we have to do it. Um, we're getting, as you may note, if you are following development from in Liberia, there are three cases now. One was confirmed again today from a lady, according to what the news outlet reporting from Italy. One Linda throwing a huge party, and now we are hearing that she's confirmed. So the question then becomes, who are those people that should be interacting with her? This is very serious, and we hope that authorities will do everything possible to get this information and to do all they can. We are also getting some information from other neighboring countries. Burkina Faso now is also now, according to Africa News, the light that I'm just getting here, two new coronavirus-related deaths has been recorded in Burkina Faso, that's a West African state, where four ministers are infected with the COVID-19, according to reports from the Health Emergency Response Operation Central Chorus released that today. Two deaths were recorded today, bringing three of the number of deaths since the beginnings of the epidemic, the report said. This is a total number now, 64, 29 women and 35 men. And the news also reporting there is a curfew now is in the North African state of Libya. Libya now has imposed a curfew to enforce that no one stays in the street. According to this news, the African news, Libyan strongman Khalifu Haftar has been deploying forces overnight to ensure that people are off the streets. So this is serious. It's more serious. It's serious, and it is getting uglier and uglier. And we have been hearing from professionals. It will get uglier, hopefully, before it get bad. And I will go to ask the question to this professional because I will listen to our representative Yeket Koloba, and he said it's airborne. Who gave that? This is the problem we are having from time to time. The wrong information is always out there, and people just run with it. It is not an airborne. So we have to listen to our professionals. Let me see here. Zimbabwe as well. For the first time, Niger also confirmed a case today. This is to show that this thing here, uh, nobody can easily guess the end point of this here. It continues to rise over and over and over. Almost the entire world or country think it is unprecedented to see what is about 34 African countries now infected with this virus. So this is to show that Liberia fighting her own, Cote d'Ivoire fighting her own, Ghana fighting her own, Nigeria fighting. So who you think will abandon their own fight and will really turn to you? We are happy that the World Health Organization is giving aid, and we hope that our national leaders will do everything possibly they can to address this situation. We are getting some unconfirmed report, but we leave it as it is now until hopefully by date. Like I told you, we are tomorrow, according to appointment today. We spoke with the Chief Medical Hospitals of the Republic of Liberia, Dr. Keto. Will hopefully be joining me here if we stay on course, if there's no cancellation for his side. I will be hosting here tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's the Chief Medical Officer who happens to be the Deputy Minister at the Ministry of Health as well. We also spoke with Dr. Flomo, who is the Chief Medical Officer in Sino County. We are getting some unconfirmed reports, but we hope to authenticate that as well. But Badaland, in the meanwhile, the Chief Medical Officer of the Republic of Liberia, Dr. Joseph Kerot, will be my special guest tomorrow. And this is all is to go inside, outside of Monrovia to see what is unfolding in the country and to get a sense. And if you are citizens, you can also reach out to do the best we can. So this is not about ruling party, opposition party. It is all about the land called Republic of Liberia. It is serious, and I will do everything possible we can to create an awareness. If you have a top podcast in favor of the GOL, that's the government, or even the opposition, try to take 10 minutes or 5 minutes of your airtime to create public awareness, public safety. That would be a better thing. You know? Again, my old lady drinking hot water all day today. Somebody called from America and said, oh, they put him on drink hot water. You'll be more drinking hot water until the stomach is almost going over the roof. Please, this is not about like to turn around. This is not a guess game. Look out. There are so many places where you can find resources if you want to be a help to give information to people. Well, until then, I'm Alfonso Zienso of the Liberia Public Radio and LPR TV. This fight, we have to rally around the government of the Republic of Liberia to ensure that this. I was so proud yesterday. I saw there's an action women group in Liberia. The women that were in a sun, they have their bucket, calling on people to wash their hands as they pass by. Wash your hand, we are here. This is a kind of sacrifice, the ultimate sacrifice. These are patriotic Liberians who care for their country. It is not about themselves. And I listened to that latest interview with Front Page Africa, so articulate, and she knew exactly what she was doing. And the social distancing she exhibited, she was very illustrative of what she was telling people to do. You could see the distance, the gap between our members with the bucket, people passing, washing. That's exactly what we need to do. That's what we're supposed to be initiating and promoting. This is not George Weah affairs. This is not Alex Comey affairs. Opposition, imposition, disposition, all of everybody, pressure group, non-pressure group, all the advocacy community, advocacy individual. It is time to rally around national government. When things are stabilized, then you can bamboo can divide, you can go your way. But in the meantime, we have to ensure that the land called Republic of Liberia is safe for all of us. And that's the bottom line, and that's what we want to do. And that's the promotion we will continue to do here on this network. Until then, Sarah Gutem must come to an end. It's 12:17 Eastern Standard Time. I want to thank you so much again to my two guests, Professor Joel and Yetot. I want to thank you so much, experts in public health as well. I want to thank you for sharing your beautiful thoughts and experiences. It's certainly meaningful. Believe me, it's better to have few than to have none, because those few that listen, that have been part of it, they will get they will take the real message out there. And that's the bottom line. So we are happy to learn a lot here tonight, and I will continue to have these sort of discussions. Until then, folks, thank you so much for being part of my best. But my guest is Catherine. How you doing? How are you? Thank you for joining us here this evening. And hopefully, if it goes well, again, the Chief Medical Officer of the Republic of Liberia, Dr. Carter, will be my guest here. If things doesn't change from it, and as far as we are concerned, he will be my guest here tomorrow. Have a pleasant date, and I will see you. Bye bye.
Our president, the people, everybody together, together we stand, together we fall, Prime Minister Daniel Shaka, shout out, Daniel Siame, from my head to you. Probably I'll become president, probably I'll become president, probably I'll become president, probably I'll become president, so we are become president, probably I'll become president, probably I'll become president because they suffering in Liberia.
Everybody in the country getting mad. This on this very powerful day on the rise. The leaders them making into promises for no damn strategies. Yeah, this is better days, money in the pockets. Oh, after holidays only for the bosses. Yeah, this is better days, money in your pockets. Oh, after holidays only for the bosses. The bosses. Oh, yo. Hey, what about the children? What about the people? What about your families? What are gonna eat? Yeah, so Sati and we waiting you. Yeah, so waiting and we hoping you. They don't really care about you. They don't care, my people, it's true. They don't wanna see you break through. The whole country's getting confused. Corruption, no questions. The country going in the wrong direction. Leaders high belly, many mentions. We don't know where the money come from. Attention, corruptions. Why nobody asks the question? They need to be in detention. 40 in our nation. Think about the children, think about the future. Whoa, think about the families, what they're gonna eat. Yeah, situation getting worse. Everybody in the country getting mad. Dishonesty, poverty on the rise. The leaders them making empty promises. Promises with no damn strategies. Yeah, this is better days, money in the pockets. Oh, I saw holidays only for the bosses. Yeah, there's a better days, money in your pockets. Oh, I saw holidays only for the bosses. The bosses. Oh, yeah.